Welcome to another episode of You'll Only Listen Twice, our podcast where we're taking a look at all the Bond films, both official and unofficial. My name is Jake.
My name is Troy.
And I'm Janny Poo. Hello, everyone. To our listeners at home, Jake has awarded me with the name Janny Poo, which is, I guess, his version of Lisan al-Gaib or Muad'Dib.
Lisan al-Gaib! I still haven't seen Dune 2 yet. Dune 1 hasn't even come out yet.
I know, but I've gotten special sneak previews, and I can say for sure that the second one is much better.
Jan drank the worm piss, and he sees in the future.
Yes, it's fine.
Guys, what if Denis Villeneuve directed a Bond movie?
I'm sure that would be cool, but, you know, when I was watching The Day Is Not Kill Enough or whatever James Bond movie I was watching, I was saying, you know who should direct a James Bond movie? The director of Revolutionary Road, of course.
Oh, whoa. You mean the director of Away We Go?
Sure, I think so.
It's awful. Don't watch that film.
Yes, that's like the movie you did after Revolutionary Road, right?
Yeah, it's John Krasinski and Maya Rudolph.
I think so. Revolutionary Road is one of the most boring things I've ever seen.
Hey, Revolutionary Road was fine. Now, Empire of Light...
It's 15 minutes of her, like, scrambling eggs.
Okay, but have you seen Empire of Light or Away We Go?
No.
The bar can always go lower, Jan. It can always go lower.
I'm just spoiling my final thoughts here. Skyfall is Sam Mendes' best movie, hands down.
Really? Over Road to Perdition?
It's tied with Road to Perdition, yeah.
I still haven't seen Road to Perdition.
Oh, Road to Perdition is fucking hard, man. But, no, I remember when they announced that Sam Mendes was gonna do a James Bond movie, I was cautiously optimistic, but also, like, trepidatious, you know, because we had just gotten an auteur for Quantum of Solace.
What?
And that was atrocious.
Oh, yes.
Wait, okay, let's settle this. Is Mark Forrester an auteur? Sound off in the comments. I'd argue no. He doesn't have a set
he
style.
definitely makes choices. He makes big choices.
Does he? In Christopher Robin, is there a big choice in that movie? Which I think is above average.
I think the whole concept of that movie is a big choice. Having
Hook? With Winnie the Pooh?
Yeah, just like having these terrifying puppets.
Like if you saw Winnie the Pooh come up to you, you shit your pants in fear instead of being delighted.
Pooh? Christopher Robin.
It was genuinely terrifying. I was on PCP when I watched that movie, and I punched a hole through my theater.
Jan, I've been meaning to tell you this. The International Film Critics Association has sent us a letter to investigate you for doping while doing film reviews.
Well, that's the only way I can watch movies without playing Subway Surfers at the same time. My attention span has been completely demolished.
Oh, I think the guy who was sitting like down the aisle from me in Dune 2 like was also doing that.
Subway Surfer.
That's why I love Dune 2, because Peter Griffin's in it and Subway Surfer is in it.
It's a fun time for everybody, but this long intro is just building up to this highly anticipated Bond movie. This is, of course, Adele, Skyfall.
Adele Dazeem.
The wickedly talented Adele Dazeem.
Okay, question. We're going to talk about the song when we get to it, but do you guys think Skyfall would be as popular as it was without that song? Like, I genuinely feel like the song was such a hit.
I think it would, but it helped.
It definitely helped, but yeah, I think like it was the perfect storm for this movie to make a more $1 billion. It was the 50th anniversary.
Jan, a more $1 billion is like the equivalent of like 7 cents. Like, this made a little bit more than $7 more billion.
Excuse you, sir. This was the highest grossing British movie of all time. It made £7. It is the highest grossing film domestically.
You do know that 6% of our audience is from the UK.
I hope not from a very specific city, yeah.
I'm telling you, boys, if people from Bristol come and listen to our podcast, I am going to...
Yeah, don't listen, don't comment. We don't want you here. So Skyfall.
It At the scaffold.
When it crumbles.
Well, as we were saying before, yeah, it's the highest grossing Bond movie ever. It made a ton of money. The song is widely beloved.
Fucking bop,
The movie
man.
is wildly beloved.
It's a biggie. I mean, as of the time we were recording this podcast in 2021,
I
or
guess.
are we I don't know if we're doing the bit. And actually, and maybe this is the movie where we restore things back to our old bits, right? Because that's what it's all about.
Yeah, we're gonna bring it
we
back.
have to break down this podcast and rebuild
We're
it.
gonna break down this podcast, and we're gonna show why we're such good podcasters. Except we will completely fail at podcasting this
So
episode.
by the end
Yes.
of this podcast, me and Paul will die, so
Yes.
that it returns to the status quo of just being you and Jake.
Correct.
Yes.
And except at the end of the episode, some random person will say, "I'm Dogify," and I'm like, "We're back to business."
My name is Eve Dogify.
Dogify.
We should genuinely like add a bit of like us dying somehow at the end. We'll think about it.
Yeah, no, we can kill you off throughout the episode if you'd like. Me and Jake have been planning that for years.
You can smirch me like in Casino Royale. So Jake, tell us about Skyfall.
All right, so this one is interesting. I guess Sam Mendes went to this show that Daniel Craig and Hugh Jackman did. Does anyone? I should have researched what
Oh
show.
yeah, I
it was.
read. I don't think.
Like a play?
Yeah, it was a play.
Yeah, it was a play.
It was
Okay.
like a
Well, he is
two-hander.
a theater man.
Yeah, Sam Mendes. He did the Cabaret revival. and-
Mamma Mia.
Was that it?
No.
It was Mamma Mia.
This might be the only episode we record where I am coming in with some extra information and context, although Jake now has most of it as well. So,
Yes. So anyway, it begins with Sam Mendes going to a Broadway show featuring Daniel Craig and Hugh Jackman. They go to an after party, and while they were drinking, Sam Mendes asks about when's the next Bond movie, and Daniel Craig's like, I don't know. We're working on it. We need a director. Do you want to direct it? And Sam Mendes is like, yeah, sure, I guess. And then after that party, he was just like, I know Daniel Craig was wasted, but I'm actually kind of interested in doing this. It would be fun because, I watched The Dark Knight and I realized that.
You don't say.
Yeah. He's like, I'm happy that you can have like auteurs go in and make like relevant movies about our time on a big scale, and nobody makes mid-budget movies anymore, or big-budget dramas or art house movies anymore. So
This is not that.
yeah, no, it's really bizarre because I'm like, okay, well, Nolan wasn't really an auteur yet because he was just the guy who made Memento, and then he did Batman Begins, but he wasn't quite at that same level yet.
So after I rewatched this, I went back and watched a bunch of like the behind the scenes. And it's so fucking bizarre because like how Sam Mendes talks about this movie, it's almost like I love this movie, but I love it for completely different reasons.
That's the Sam Mendes touch.
It's really
Yeah.
weird with Sam Mendes. Like, he seems like an all right guy.
Yeah, no, he seems fine. Great artist, great craftsman.
Yeah, he's a great craftsman, but then you're like hearing him talk about it, and he's just like, Martin Campbell did a great job with Daniel Craig in Casino Royale, but what I want to do was something radical. I want to break down Bond and build him back up. I'm like, you mean like how Martin Campbell did that?
Yeah.
No, and
Casino
also
Royale.
this is one of the most like just following the formula James Bond movies.
You think this one's
No,
formula?
that's the thing. Well, it's
I don't
it's
agree
not
with that
really
at all.
following the formula.
well, what he talks about, at least because we both listened to some of the same interviews that he gave, that basically the one thing, spoilers, the one thing that kept him really interested throughout multiple script drafts, which did change radically, is
Yes.
it's going to be so crazy when M dies.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Apparently, when he came on the draft, they gave him ended with Bond having to kill M himself, and he's like, I don't like that, but I like the idea of killing M.
Yeah.
But
It's funny how you mentioned that because he actually said that one of the biggest influences on the movie was the later Bond books, like You Only Live Twice and The Man with the Golden Gun and
They
stuff
almost
like
did
that.
like an adaptation of like You Only
Yeah,
Live
no,
Twice.
and if he killed M like that, that's pretty much what happens at the beginning of The Man with the Golden Gun.
Oh, he tries to kill him because he thinks he's
Yeah, no, because he thinks he's a
like
Japanese
brainwashed. He
he's
thinks he's a
brainwashed.
Japanese agent.
No, because he goes to Russia at one point and then he gets brainwashed. He's like, "Who am I?" And then he tries to kill M, and then M goes like, "Bon, you're not well. Anyway, here's a mission."
That would be amazing if Sam Mendes is like, I'm trying to deconstruct Bond, and then it was just like Bond turning Japanese and killing Judi Dench. So it's like, I am breaking him down to his bare essentials.
Yeah. Just get her out. But to go real quickly back to discussing Sam Mendes directing something and you getting something completely different out of it. I am not afraid to say I'm a middlebrow appreciator of Sam Mendes. He's made some great movies. He's made some terrible movies, but
Yeah,
on the
same,
whole,
same,
I like his
Yeah,
style.
no, I like Sam Mendes.
He is a theatrical director. Like, he comes from theater. And unlike in movies, where I feel directors really need to know what they want you to take away from the film, I feel a lot of play directors and theatrical directors are more of like, what's a stylish way to put this scene on? What's just a cool way to present this old material in a new, fresh update? And maybe you get something new from it, but in general, there's a little less control over theme. And it's funny because I feel you do see that in his Bond movies, where it's a very stylishly put on James Bond movie, and it's trying to be a spin on the classic James Bond tropes. But obviously, as we'll get into this week and next week, people have very different takeaways on what is this movie exactly saying?
That's an interesting theory. And also, guys, like, Sam Mendes is one of these directors that, like, he's a great director, but his style pretty much changes completely from movie to movie, depending on what the movie needs.
Except that it's shot by Roger Deakins, and that's what makes you think it's the same style.
Elephant in the room,
Yeah.
which we'll discuss. Most of my knowledge of this movie comes from
The Deak.
The Deak.
Give me that dick.
Deak.
Give me the Deak.
One of the most respected living cinematographers.
Have I ever told Jake and Jan the story of how I met Roger Deakins?
We know this story.
No,
I don't know
I
this story.
I don't think I know
All right,
this.
so Paul's a huge nerd. So freshman year of college, he's like, guys,
Wait, this is news to me.
guys,
Paul looks like he plays varsity volleyball.
A camera nerd? What are you talking about?
Paul would show up in his leather jacket at the dorm. This was before Jan was born. And he would be like, guys, ACS is having an open house. We got to go to this open house and talk to all the big cinematographers. And they were all there. So I love A Serious Man. And there's a scene at the beginning of A Serious Man where it's like the inside of an ear. And then they zoom out and it's the ear of the serious man's son. And I'm like, this is probably an effect, but I wonder if they actually zoomed into an ear.
The son of the serious man.
So, that's the sequel that the Coen brothers
Serious
are
Man
working on.
Returns.
Children of the serious man Messiah.
A serious agent. A serious man meets the wolf man. Frankenstein versus Serious Man. Serious Man versus Superman. All right.
Serious Man v Superman. Dawn of
Dawn of
Justice.
Seriousness.
Serious
Dawn-
man days of future past. We could do this all day long.
Yeah, no time, the serious man. So I go to Roger Deakins and I'm like, somehow I end up at the front of the line. So I'm talking to Roger Deakins and I'm like, at the beginning of A Serious Man, what lens did you use to zoom in on that ear, like really close? And he's like, oh, that's not how the movie starts. Doesn't it start with like a golem? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess you're right. Well, what about at the beginning of the credits? And he's like, oh, I don't remember the credits, but I think you're right. You probably remember A Serious Man more than me. And I'm like, I don't know, Roger. And then we both just kind of shrugged and we went our separate ways. And that's the story of the time I met Roger.
Roger is the coolest fucking dude ever. Like,
Oh, he seems amazing.
You
Yeah.
see interviews with him, he's one of those people who's just like, yeah, exactly. Like, people are asking him, how did you achieve this miraculous shot? And he's just like, no, I just did. Yeah. I don't know why he talks like Ringo in my imagination, but he talks like Ringo.
He sort of does. He's
Yeah, no, he
right?
does. He's just very
incredibly
matter of fact.
mild-mannered,
I kind
British
of
man.
just lit it and then I just showed it. Yeah. Yeah. No.
Yes, he's mainly known, of course, for his collaborations with the Coen brothers, but this sort of was a shift, which weirdly
Yes.
in the 2010s he became unorthodox, big budget man.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he won his first Oscar in like 2018 or some shit,
For
which is
Blade
insane.
Runner 2049.
Yeah.
Do
Yes.
we think... Okay, so this is interesting. This isn't about James Bond. I just think it's interesting. Looking at Dune and Blade Runner 2049, they have different DPs, but do we feel they kind of look similar?
Well, this is a sidebar, but this is semi-related though.
Okay.
I was asleep for one and drunk for the other, so I'll give the word to
Okay.
Paul.
This is semi-related to what we're talking about because I would argue that Roger Deakins is one of the few kind of brand name people in his discipline, cinematography, and he's obviously at the position that very few people are, where he gets the allowances that a lot of directors don't even get, right? In terms of the crew and the amount of creative control he gets over projects. Point is, he could easily direct movies if he wanted to, but he chooses not to because he likes working with directors. However, I will argue you see some similarities, especially in the last 20 years or so, of the people he's collaborated with. And I think you see him gravitate towards directors that let him do a lot of what he wants to do.
Well,
right?
yeah.
Very, very long shots, very wide
Yes.
shots,
Yes, I
very
would
soft
argue
lighting.
that Denis directed Sicario and Dune, but I think Dune has more in common with The Batman, which was both shot by Greg Fraser.
Interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
Sicario has more in common with Skyfall. That's what I would argue, right?
So he's making the point that Denis Villeneuve is a hack.
He's
didn't
a
say
hack
that.
fraud, yeah.
Denis, come on the podcast.
Yeah. Come defend your turd that is the Dune movies.
Paul has a map behind him of Quebec, and it has a giant X over it and marked to die in it.
No, I love their whatever they eat up there.
Poutine.
No, but
Yes.
I do have a point on the Dick.
Deak.
Which is that he is obviously one of my favorite cinematographers ever. He shot my favorite movie of all time, The Big Lebowski.
I thought your favorite movie of all time was Mars Attack.
So I'm drunk right now. I don't know what I'm saying.
When I'm sober, I'll
So
love
yes,
Mars Attack.
Roger Deakins shot my favorite movie of all time, Mars Attacks. And then I do think though that Roger's style, even though he's one of the greatest craftsmen in his field, is very specific for certain projects, because Blade Runner is case number A or 1 or whatever you call it for me, where it's like Blade Runner looks amazing, undeniably, but it looks a little bit too crisp, too clean, not inventive enough in the way that Jordan Cronenworth cinematography was on the first one, where he was just doing all sorts of crazy shit. However, in this movie, the clean craftsman sort of cleanliness 1000% elevates this movie.
I agree.
Well, yeah, I agree too. I would say this movie is as good as it is solely because of the direction and the cinematography.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
The
just
screenplay's
raising it.
kind of eh.
Yeah.
No, the thing that's really bizarre in this movie, because this is a movie that, like we said before, it is about Bond dies and is reborn, and everything is the same, but everything is different now. And you're kind of looking at all the
But it's the
individual
same.
pieces, but it's the same. But then you see all the individual pieces as to how they're building up, because it's okay, we're going to do most of the movie is the relationship between Bond and M, which is a mom and a adopted son, and then counterpoint with another adopted son. And then we're also going to be talking about the franchise as a whole. And then we're also going to talk about the legacy of the Bond movies. We talk about the gadgets, but he doesn't really have gadgets in this movie, and they make fun of the gadgets also. But also the DB5 shows up at the end, and then you're just looking at all these weird elements that shouldn't work. You're just kind of going on their own. If you told me before I would see this movie, it's oh, this is what's going to happen in this, you're just going to be if you heard any one of those, you're just like, what?
With a bad director and a bad cinematographer, this could easily be a bad movie. Yeah.
This movie is kind of like the missing link between The Dark Knight and The Last Jedi. Because I feel The Last Jedi does something very similar where it's like, we're going to tear this whole thing down, then we're going to build it all back up at the end.
Sort of.
No, yeah. I must admit, like, I've always had this movie at 5 stars. I did lower it by half a star this time because
oh my God.
Those tiny things that we'll get more into did bother me more this time. I think I've been Troy pilled. I think
Well, here's the thing with me. With all these really weird things that don't really make sense together and on their own are strange, I am still sucked into this movie, and I think it's
tremendously
amazing.
entertaining.
Like, give Sam Mendes all the credit in the world, because even with like juggling all these plates, it's almost like watching like a plate juggler, and like every single one of them is about to fall, but for some reason it doesn't. And you're just like, how the fuck is he catching the ones that are like about to fall? And it's amazing.
I know this is controversial. I think hands down Sam Mendes is the best director in the James Bond film series. I'm sorry, Louis Gilbert.
No.
Martin Campbell.
Martin Campbell? Come on. No, but what I think, for me, I love this movie because I think it's so fucking engrossing and entertaining and tight and lean and fast-paced. But yeah, it does have this thing where it's like you hear Sam Mendes talking about it in interviews, and he's like, yeah, I tried, he's not Cockney, but you know what I'm trying to do. He's like, I try to make this a very deep character study and try deconstructing, and I'm just watching that.
Have you read Hamlet? Have you read Macbeth? I've done that with James Bond, right? I have.
Yeah, and he's just going like, I try to make this like a deep character study just Bond, and I'm watching the movie, I'm like, what? Like, this is literally, this is one of the movies where James Bond is like the most passive.
Yeah.
Like he barely speaks in this.
I think this is the only movie where you could argue James Bond could have not shown up for work at any point in this movie, and nothing would change.
And again, I like this movie because it's really a movie about Javier Bardem and M, that it's their story, but it's not really a character study.
But also with Bond, it's also about Bond and M.
Kind of, but like their dynamic is so vague.
Well, like the relationship between M and Silva is kind of enhanced by how different it is between Bond and M. Even though, if you're really thinking about it in the context of it being a sequel to Casino Royale, you're just like, wait, we've already addressed this matter of M like sending James Bond out to die and not caring about it. Bond fully knows. Yeah. And yet you have like this, a big part of the movie is like that tension between them because she didn't trust him enough to carry out the job. And you're just kind of like, wait a second.
That's the weirdest part about all the Craig era movies is that Casino Royale ends in a very well-adjusted place where James Bond accepts everything. And then the rest of the movies are, I didn't accept this. I don't like this. Vesper. Where's Vesper? I'm broken.
I guess I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I think with me with this movie is like, just because the movie's like insisting that it's about something because it mentions his childhood and like a weird like Oedipus complex with him and shit.
Sure.
Doesn't mean that it's actually carrying those themes through.
Yeah, because that's the thing that I never really get, because it's just like, yeah, no, this is a big part of Bond's character is that he journeys to his childhood home. And even really in the end, you're kind of just questioning.
Nothing happens there. Yeah,
what's the point? Like, he left behind his childhood. This was a big starting point because I'm just like
that's
I'm
everyone.
Still trying to wrap my head around that.
We all left our childhood.
All it tells you is that he was Batman growing up. He had a butler, he had rich parents who died, and he lived in a house of a cave.
Prick. Yeah, which you mentioned in Casino Royale that he was poor, but whatever.
Yeah, I guess he wasn't poor. Well, he was poor because he was actually raised by a Swiss ski instructor.
No.
What? What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Paul hasn't seen Spectre.
Hot take. Spectre is going to be Sam Mendes' second best film ever after Road to Perdition. But we have to
My
get
goodness me.
You're insane. No, it's really weird because you're just like, yeah, he goes to Skyfall and you're just like, okay, is this like him like on a character level? Is this him like opening up to M? Is it like reliving a childhood trauma, which isn't really a factor into anything that's happening in the movie or the previous movies for that matter, really.
Yeah, well, it's like you have that scene with the psychiatrist guy who's
Going like
just
Skyfall.
Skyfall, and he's like done.
Skyfall. Done.
And you're like, oh, what is Skyfall? What is this? And it's like, it's his childhood home, and you're like, oh, that's it. Like, that's.
Well, yeah, they do the bit where it's like his parents died and he's hid in the tunnel, and it's like we already knew his parents died.
Yeah, we knew his
Yeah,
parents.
but we
he
didn't
was an
know
orphan.
he had a Sean Connery impersonator who like lived in his basement and sold all
Hey,
his guns.
Albert Finney is more than a Sean Connery impersonator. He is a beloved treasure.
Not in this movie.
Though you do wish that Sean Connery was Kincade.
It's like like they almost would have cut the character if they were too chicken
I think
shit.
we should just get into the movie now. It seems like
I do want to get into a little bit more of production
Okay.
problems because Sam Mendes gets attached pretty early on, and then 2010 happens, and in 2010, MGM goes bankrupt.
Uh-oh.
So they shut down production, except that gives Sam Mendes more time to work out the script with Purvis Wade and
John Logan.
John Logan, yeah.
oh, Mr. Hugo.
Yeah.
Yeah, another heavy hitter. I mean, one of the most prolific and respected screenwriters of the last 25 years.
Nah. You like The Aviator, but he's not that good.
Well, look, I think all I'll say is I think he's on a similar level to Sam Mendes.
Yes, he's the Sam Mendes of screenplays.
Hey, I like Skyfall more than Hugo, way less than The Aviator. I love The Aviator.
Marty, baby. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, me and Paul are like Aviator #1 fans.
So they're not able to start production because of MGM's financial difficulties.
You know what was the last movie MGM made before they went bankrupt? It was Hot Tub Time Machine.
Yeah, that's
Going
true.
out on a banger. But what were you saying, Jake?
That's pretty much it. So they were given more time to like actually think about the script and get it to a place that was shootable instead of like rushing it and then not having a third act, unlike the next movie, Spectre.
Hey, rushing the script is a time-honored James Bond tradition.
That
How
you
dare
can't
we
argue
skip
with that.
this vital
I'm gonna get into more of this in Spectre, but like when you have Sam Mendes trying to do like his pretentious version of James Bond, it works when you're rushing it when you're doing Tomorrow Never Dies. It doesn't work when you're like trying to elevate James Bond and trying to make it like an awards player movie.
You guys are gonna give me so much shit about the silly string when they basically do silly string Home Alone buffoonery in the climax of Skyfall 2. All Sam Mendes Bond movies end
What the
in
fuck
like,
is silly string?
No, we haven't seen. Don't talk, okay, this movie.
Wait, there is one bit of casting I want to talk about.
Sure.
Apparently, they were going, his first choice to play the villain of this movie was his American Beauty star, Kevin Spacey.
I know what you want. You want me back.
That would have been pretty
Well,
fun.
here is my controversial take. Kevin Spacey, good actor, bad person.
I think Kevin Spacey is a really good actor at playing bad people, but he is a bad person, so maybe he's not that good an actor.
Oh, I've never thought about it that way.
It reminds me of when Paul Rudd famously went on Colbert and Stephen Colbert asked him, so which is it? Are you a great guy who's a terrible actor, or are you a terrible man who's a great actor?
Yeah. So Skyfall, intro, MGM.
Okay, so let me preamble this. When I first watched Skyfall, I'm like, okay.
You must have fucking had a stroke in this moment, right? Because I was pretty angry. I was like, as a 16-year-old.
Well, here's the thing that happened. I was like, oh boy, yeah, I'm in the theater.
Yeah, oh boy, yeah.
Bond is coming. Oh boy, yeah.
Oh boy, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, the first in Casino Royale, the gun barrel was placed after the opening teaser. That's fine. But now he's James Bond. Quantum of Solace, disappointed.
Fucked
Gun
it
barrel
up,
appears at the end. Fucked it up. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
surely now that he's James Bond, the gun barrel is going to be in the opening, right?
You dumbass.
Son of a fucking bitch. But that shot is
Why?
amazing. That
It's a
shot
great
is
shot.
really cool.
It's not better than the gun barrel.
Here's the thing that frustrates me is that Sam Mendes said that like my initial intention was to put the gun barrel at the beginning of the movie.
Liar.
Because that's how Bond movies begin.
Liar.
But then he was just like, it didn't fit with the opening shot of the movie, which is Bond walking up to camera and pointing a gun.
So change the shot.
My question is, why would you make your opening him pointing a gun, walking forward to camera and pointing a gun, if you wanted to put the gun barrel at the beginning? I don't get it. What the fuck were you thinking? This should be, like, when you write this down on the page, you can see it. Like, go like, oh, gun barrel is Bond walking gun. And then...
My God,
But I'm like,
Jake
you
is
should
going
know
full
this.
Doug Walker.
You don't even need to be in editing.
Jake, put the gun down.
Like,
Jake is
what
going
the
full
heck?
channel
God
awesome.
fucking damn it.
Nostalgia
Like,
critic.
Jesus
Oh my
fucking
God.
Christ. Why wouldn't you think it? But
Jake is
as I calm down,
waving a gun at the screen.
Jake, no, get it away from your head.
Well,
They'll
to
do the
be
gun barrel in the
fair,
next
I
movie.
think it is like if they did a classic gun barrel and then this scene starts, there would definitely be some tonal whiplash.
But that's the point. It's always the tonal whiplash.
it's an indicator of what movie you're watching. You're about to get put on an adventure, an escapist adventure.
Well, but this opening sequence is not an escapist adventure at all. It's like a massacre.
Oh, come on. He's doing shit on motorcycles on top of a train. Like,
Yeah, no, it's still like,
there have been much grittier intros to the series with the gun barrel, and it works.
Yes. I think the gun barrel would have helped the intro even more because it would have set up like it was another adventure for James Bond. So then the end of it would have hit as a bigger shock that it's like, oh, he died? Like, instead of the
Right.
weird putting it. I'll get into why
Yeah.
the gun barrel at the end of the movie is very strange.
Even though we all know
and,
he
like,
dies
I
at the
don't
beginning
like it.
because it was in the trailer, but whatever.
Yeah.
And you know that James Bond's not gonna die.
He'll never die.
He'll never die. That would be fucking stupid. But yeah, people on YouTube like have put the gun barrel at the beginning of the scene, and it fucking works. Like no one's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
He starts with the gun, and then the very next shot is him with the gun. Like, no, who the fuck is gonna say that? Like, come on.
The light don't match the light of Roger Deakins has a white light, and this is a more cream-colored white. We here in Bristol care about the palettes decide with the visual set design of every scene.
You gotta stop pandering to Bristol, Sam Mendes. Just make a movie like for everyone.
that's the big thing. I'm like, if that was your problem, that having the gun barrel at the beginning with the first shot of the movie is redundant, why did you make that the first shot to begin with? I don't get it, but it's a cool shot.
It's a cool shot, and it started me on a very bad note, this movie, because it has no gun barrel, and I was an anal 16-year-old. But this opening goes fucking hard. Like,
Yes.
everyone said it, but I think out of the action-y openings, this and The Spy Who Loved Me are kings.
I was gonna correct you, but you said it, so you're fine. You're good.
Thank you. Yeah, I was anticipating that.
It's definitely up there.
I mean, it's good.
What? Okay.
Paul's
okay,
not
Paul,
impressed.
give it to me.
I mean, look, well, I mean, compared to World is Not Enough, like, come on now.
Oh, it's up there. It's up there.
It's up there. Like, it's not the best. It's not my favorite personally, but it's still pretty fucking dope.
It's a classic Bond escalation. You know, he goes from tiny action to car action to motorcycle action to train action. Then he falls. What's not to like?
No, it's got good bits, nice reversals, nice, beats. I mean, he gets shot before Moneypenny shoots him.
Yeah, and that when he gets shot the first time is very important to the next half of the movie.
Yeah.
Because that's their first clue.
No, and also I think what really just impressed me about this movie is that with Quantum of Solace, we were like, you put a non-action director to direct an action movie. Why? It's awful. And then with this one, I was worried also. I was like, you put a non-action director to direct an action movie, it's also probably going to be a disaster. And in this opening scene, it lets you know, like, oh, we're in good hands. The action is fantastic.
What was great about this movie was that the previous two movies were focused on Bourne action, and it's like you can't see shit.
Well, Casino Royale the action is better.
Yeah, it's better photographed than Quantum of Solace, but it still is in that shaky cam.
This goes back to the Louis Gilbert pilled,
Yes.
movies.
Where
the,
you
like,
can see everything.
big wide angles that let the action play out.
Yeah.
The cuts are very specific, very well thought out.
And it's
Everything's
back
storyboarded.
to James Bond on a green screen, riding a motorcycle. It made you feel like you were watching Roger Moore.
Yes. Well, I think, again, we should note there was an interesting and perhaps beneficial kind of push and pull between Mendes, Deakins, and the established Bond crew.
Yes.
Right, the stunt guys and the second unit and all that, which they speak about because basically any Deakins movie, and I guess a majority of Sam Mendes movies, they get very excited about any chance to do a oneer, trying to, again, he literally said this in the interview that we listened to, trying to be like Nolan, and he knows that Nolan, as much as humanly possible, wants one camera, one unit, everything goes through him, everything's
Liar.
Cutted in the camera.
Another fucking liar. I don't believe him.
So they try to do that, but it's a bit of both, right? It ends up kind of splitting the difference because throughout this movie you have, kind of big oneers, and then you have some other more traditionally covered stuff.
No, aesthetically, this movie, I think, is like a masterpiece. I do think that this is like top 5 Roger Deakins. I don't know if that's a hot take or not.
I could get on board with that.
It is, and I think immediately this became one of the definitive ones. I think before this, the one that people would often talk about was Assassination of Jesse James, but this has a similar amount of silhouettes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and we'll also why not note at this point, this is the first and currently I think the only Bond movie to be shot entirely digital.
Digital, that's right.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Which is weird because it's you get the
so
first
good.
real filmmakers to do this, and it's the first one that is digital completely, and it looks great.
It's first digital. It's the second Deakins movie that he had shot digital. I think the first one was In Time with Justin Timberlake, which I've not seen. So he knew the system. It was on the Arri Alexa, which is, became standard.
Yeah. This was the movie, I think, where he was like, I'm never going back.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Well, because everybody wouldn't stop talking about the way the movie looked.
Yeah, and the fact that it was nominated for an Oscar.
It was easier, and they could shoot more, and the cameras were lighter.
I mean, Deakins has talked about this a million times, but it's just about the consistency. And I think one of the biggest impacts of this movie, bigger than the Bond franchise, is the fact that it was nominated for the Oscar for cinematography, and he was able to get this look with it, right?
Yeah,
he's not changing his aesthetic, but he's also not trying to make it look like old film. And right off the bat, I think immediately, one other note I'll make, the digital combined with, he prefers the cleanest, most high performance lenses you can possibly get your hands on, compared to Quantum, or any other movie. It's unbelievably crisp, every single
pristine,
shot,
which goes very well with the Bond that is presented here, because it's this isn't just another Daniel Craig Bond. This is supposed to be the fully formed Bond already, and motherfucker is looking tight as hell.
His performance in this opening is so good. Yes, we've brought back not only
He's
the
so
scale of
suave.
Bond, but now we have the fully formed James Bond. He cares a little bit about the agent that's wounded, and he only considers shooting
Troy,
him a
does
little
he care
bit.
too much?
But it's bringing it back a little bit. He cares a little bit about the agent, but he can jump into a half train and still take time to adjust his cufflinks.
Yes.
He's back.
I have to say, the Roger Deakins crispness of how this looks fucking when he's in the suit.
It looks so good, man.
It looks so good with just the way Istanbul is shot, where it's just kind of that
orange
weird
Mexico
it's not
filter.
Orange. It's not Mexico filter. It's
no, but it does seem hot.
It's soft. No, it seems hot, but it's I don't know, there's a lot of highlights where it's
well,
super,
it's all highlights, but it's so kind of consistent. I mean, whatever, but we can try to nerd out about this. But yes, it's all very specifically managed, and you feel, it's slightly muted, just slightly, you know.
Yeah. No, but I mean, talking about the fits, this is, I think, my favorite Bond fits in any of the Bond movies. He's styling so fucking hard. The Tom Ford suits when he's in Shanghai and he has that
Ah.
fucking like coat, you know?
That's great.
Damn, this guy looks good. Like, this is finally James Bond, you know? Our podcaster friends at Caravan of Garbage already mentioned this, but I noticed this even the first time. Whenever Daniel Craig is just standing, he's wearing the tiniest fucking suits, and it looks like if he crouches, he's gonna rip the shit out of them.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
They are fitted.
But he looks good.
Well, it seems like
does.
it's very stretchy material because he's got to fight and shit. And
Yeah, they're like
that
fight
stuff.
suits, which are great.
Well, yeah, he has the fight suits, which are like his actual size, and then he's got the tiny baby suits, the suits that he got at Baby Gap. You know?
Well, it's
And
kind of
then, yeah.
like what that John Mulaney special, or what is it? He's in like Radio City, and he's got this little jacket, and it looks good, but he can only move back and forth in very specific ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is the John Mulaney of James Bond movie.
It's like the Michael Keaton Batman suit. Like, it looks good, but you can't turn your head, or the rubber will rip.
Right.
Yeah,
But
it's exactly
goddamn,
that.
is it photogenic?
Yes, it looks great.
So somehow this builds up to money.
No.
No.
Stop spoiling shit.
Well, my name's Eve. Eve.
A lady that he's working with.
The lady Eve, who's the field agent. So Bond is chasing this guy who has
who's
stolen
definitely
the
never
names.
worked in an office before.
No. She is a field agent that Bond has worked with that he doesn't know her name.
He doesn't know her name. He's vaguely attracted to her. But they have stolen the list of every single NATO agent, and this guy has it on his drive, and Bond is kicking him on a train. We all love a good Bond train fight. And Eve has the gun aimed at him, and she's like, I can only shoot him if I shoot Bond. And M, in the first of many great decisions she will make in this movie,
Yeah,
goes, shoot him.
But she's a little hesitant.
Yeah, she's a little hesitant, and it's like the dumbest decision if you really
Yes.
think about it, but who cares? It's like Dark Knight Rises logic. If like you think about it, that's not the point. You're there to have fun.
No, I mean, I can see it. Like, there's a scene near the end of the movie where M is like, I fucked up, didn't I? And Bond's just like, you did your job. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, like, it's these people's jobs to die.
Okay,
you know?
but here's my point. Here's one of my biggest issues with the movie, actually, is that everyone in the movie is incompetent, but especially
Yeah, it's
M.
a James Bond movie. What?
Oh, okay, but most James Bond movies don't have, like, M gets this whole speech later in the movie about how she's important and how you need her. And I would argue, based on this movie, no, you do not need M. She is stupid in this movie. She doesn't do anything right. Every
I agree.
decision she makes is bad.
Well, I will say, like, right off the bat, it is a little weird, and it continues to be slightly odd because this movie is focusing on M and Bond's relationship, and it's already very muddy at this point.
Yeah.
Very strange.
You know, you thought you knew what you had at the end of Casino Royale, and
Yeah.
then Quantum made it weird, and now this is making it weird in a different way, so it's a little weird.
Also, the rifle that she's using has at least, I would have guessed, 10, 15 shots in it. At that point, if you shot Bond, I would
Yeah, if
just
you
keep
shot Bond.
firing.
Yeah, keep firing.
Also, the implication here is that Bond and M, they're like old, you know, they have quite the relationship now because Bond is like an old dog. The people are saying all the time, like, you're an old man, you should retire. And I'm like, literally the last movie was like his second mission.
Well, wait, guys, did you ever hear of the video game 007 Legends? Which opens with
where
James.
he's like imagining all the other movies.
Yeah. He gets shot by Eve, and as he falls off the train, Goldfinger, Moonraker, License to Kill, and Die Another Day, and On Her Majesty's
Happen in
Secret
his
Service.
mind?
Yeah, because they're all past
I
missions.
bought that game day of release.
That game is fucking awful.
I heard it's terrible.
A disappointment. It's like, I mean, if you want to just shoot some people, I guess it's the one thing I will give it like credit
fuck?
is that
If you want to just shoot some people.
if you want to
Jason.
just shoot some people, I
That's
guess
like most video games.
at least it's the first Bond game that actually has gadgets other than like a smartphone. They at least give you like a pen that shoots tranquilizer darts.
Well, the game is awful and unfinished, but anyways.
But I'm so intrigued by the game because the idea of putting Daniel Craig in Goldfinger or Die Another Day or Moonraker is like inherently hilarious.
It's really funny.
And the idea is that happened without Moneypenny or Q, right? So it's just him and this awful Judi Dench.
Oh, you want to hear
M.
what's even more bizarre? They have Felix Leiter in the game, except it's not Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah, it's the white Felix.
Yeah, it's the white guy. And you're just like, wait a second, this doesn't add up. Wait,
yeah, hold on.
what is this? And they even do License to Kill where like he comes in and like Felix is like half dead, you know, after his wedding. And you're just like, I don't know if this works. And even with the Skyfall mission, here are the only Skyfall missions. You get to play, it was a DLC at the end.
Yeah.
You only get to play like the opening
Istanbul,
chase through Turkey and then the Shanghai level. And then they make it so that Patrice, the assassin guy, is the main antagonist of Skyfall because they had no idea.
Flying by the seat of their pants.
Yeah, it's flying by the seat of their pants. And you're just like, at the end of the game, you kill Patrice in Shanghai. And then that's where the game ends. It's like, congratulations, 007, well done. M is still alive. And you're just like, that's not how the movie went. What the fuck is this?
You know what the Skyfall levels in that video game remind me of? The movie Skyfall that we're talking about. So James Bond gets shot, he falls, and we get the absolute best opening titles in this entire series.
It's definitely up there.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much it's like its own movie, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, do we even need to say anything? The song is a fucking bop. It's my favorite of all the Bond songs.
Yes.
It's
builds
one of
and
my
builds and
favorites, too.
builds and explodes. It has everything. It's slow, it's fast, it's epic, it's so hummable.
It's really funny because all the songs after this try to repeat the success of Skyfall without understanding what made that song bop.
Right, because none of them build. They're all like ambient.
Yeah, they're all
they're all like I'm dead and I'm James Bond. But this is like slow and then it builds and then the vocals get like booming. There's a choir, and then they have that final last note, which all Bond movies have, instead of just having like mopey Sam Smith go like, if I risked it all.
Because it's funny, because I remember when they announced Adele was still kind of just breaking through, so people were like,
no,
this a
she
gimmick?
was big. She was
like big, but it was
Rolling
like...
in the Deep was like 4 years before that.
What? I don't know about that.
No, she was already huge.
Anyway, I thought it was going to be gimmicky, but this song almost is what got me into James Bond because it suggests depth and tragedy, but it still is fun and big and larger than life.
Yeah, just like Tomorrow Never Dies.
I was going to say,
no.
Yes.
This is exactly the point, is Tomorrow Never Dies wallows. Skyfall does not
What the
wallow.
fuck are you talking about?
Skyfall soars while Tomorrow Never Dies wallows.
Skyfall is like, we're going to die, but keep fighting. Remember the Alamo. Like, come on.
Remember Tennyson.
Yeah, no, like, okay, when Dre starts talking about the Alamo, is you know it's time to move on. So the music is fantastic, and the visuals accompanying it fucking slap as well.
Yes.
Like a fucking god, Daniel Kleinman comes back, and he fucking delivers.
I really like the opening to Quantum, but this really blows it out of the water.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
easily.
it is not a contest.
It's such a good transition. Bond falling in the ocean. It is kind of like also part of the story because it does feel like his fever dream. You know,
Yeah.
like,
Well, it's almost like a weird premonition of like the whole
Yeah.
movie. Yeah. And he's in it throughout, and it's like 3D and it's different scenes, you
You
know.
only get one naked woman that they've shoved in front of the screen, and they're like, naked woman. All right, no more of that. We're
no,
done.
there's that entire like
There's the Rorschach test.
Yeah, all right, fine.
There's the naked ladies at the beginning and the giant hand.
The hand is naked, yes.
the sexy naked hand.
If this was directed by like Steve Odenkirk, that would be full frontal hand thumb nudity.
If it was a thumb movie.
Did he do a James Bond thumb movie?
No,
Has done
but he
one of those?
should.
But he should just make us just straight up just a James Bond movie.
He should do a thumb fall or gold thumb. Wait, yeah, Gold
Oh,
Thumb.
he would do Gold Thumb or Dr. Thumb.
You go Gold Thumb.
Thunderball.
For your thumbs
no,
only?
no. Nah, we've lost the plot here. But yeah, so it ends with a really cool shot of his eye. And
He doesn't look like Tom Hanks this time. That's good.
Yeah. And then we cut immediately to M just like writing his obituary.
Yeah.
And this confirms that Daniel Craig Bond is in fact a commander.
Yes.
Does anyone else ever struggle with the idea of James Bond ever giving an order? That's my thing. I can't imagine him being on a boat and he's like, heave anchor, starship fire cannon. Like, that doesn't seem like something
It is
he would ever
hilarious
do.
to imagine James Bond in the Navy with a bunch of guys in a boat, like losing his mind. You
I think
know?
it's more of an honorary title. I don't think he actually has ever like, I'm gonna go hunt the great whale. You know, like
I'm going to go hunt the Red
Whatever
October.
they do in the Navy.
yeah, I don't know what they do.
It's just like a combination between like pirates and like fucking musicals with Gene Kelly. Like,
Yeah, he's like dancing with Jerry Mouse.
James
Oh no, that's
Bond
gonna be the
just
clip.
like, good Ishmael, let me tell you about the mighty sperm whale.
So this movie does set up from the obituary. This is once again a James Bond that is obsessed with England. He loves England and the UK.
What?
He's
He
back
moved
on
to
board.
fucking like Mexico for his retirement.
Because he hates himself, Jan. Whenever he hates himself, he leaves England.
I
He
gotta
could-
say, like, Bond's retirement, such a fucking vibe, as the kids say. It was like
Oh,
my
yeah.
spirit animal, whatever the kids are saying, just like drinking Coronas at the beach.
No, he's
completely-
drinking Heineken.
Oh, okay.
It's
my
very
God.
specifically because this movie was sponsored by Heineken.
Oh, no, that's right. That is important.
Daniel Craig is more James Bond in those Heineken commercials than he is in like half of the movies where he played him. But
yeah, pretty much.
yeah.
No, but I mean, he's just chilling. He's depressed. He's drinking scorpions. He has got a babe by his side. Like, what a king. Like,
wait,
he's
I want
pill
to
popping.
point out a game. A game I like to play with Skyfall is I feel this movie would have been improved if every previous James Bond actor had had some sort of cameo at the time of Skyfall. So I'm going to point out where I think every actor should go.
Okay.
The bar scene with the scorpion should be George Lazenby's cameo. George Lazenby should have been a
What?
guy who was
Why?
doing the scorpion thing because he's just a dude on a beach drinking Heinekens. That's George Lazenby's.
That's
right.
not George Lazenby. George Lazenby's on a kilt on a mountain. What are you
No,
talking
he was
about?
dubbed. He was dubbed in that whole scene. That scene is not pure Lazenby. That's compromised Lazenby.
Oh, but we're also missing before that happens. So after M writes her obituary, she goes and meets up with Gareth Mallory, played by Ralph Fiennes, who is definitely not going to replace her.
It's pronounced Ralph Fiennes.
Ralph Fiennes, yes.
Yeah, so Ralph Fiennes is like, MI6 is irrelevant now, and I'm like, we've done this fucking song and dance number for the like since 1995.
No, in 1995, it was James Bond who was irrelevant. Now it's the whole idea of MI6, because
Pretty much all these movies since Brosnan have been like, are spies still a thing? And then it's like, yeah, they are. Like,
well, yeah, but with Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace, it was like, yes, because Al-Qaeda. But now we are far enough removed that we're like, why are we keeping these people around?
well, and M's defense in that courtroom is like, yes, because Al Qaeda. Right?
Yeah.
She's
Well,
like,
no, but then
"It's-
again, she's like, you need us to protect you from the terrorists. Terrorists immediately come into the room who just broke out of the
Well,
MI6 prison,
that's
shoot
part
everyone.
of my problem with this movie is that this movie tries to be the thesis statement for why we still need this shit. M is like,
But everything is her fault.
everything is for her fault, and she's like, you know, bad guys aren't just bad guys anymore. Now everything's more nebulous. But this is a movie that goes back to like the big bad guy with a deformed face and like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, so James Bond, yeah, MI6 blows up.
Again.
After World's Not Enough.
But even bigger, and this is the actual MI6 building they blow up, right? Like they.
Yeah, like in The World Is Not Enough. I mean, they didn't do it for real. It's a fucking.
Is this the first landmark that gets destroyed in a Bond movie? Like, normally they keep real life buildings intact in Bond movies.
Well, San Francisco's image was destroyed by all of Theodore
yes.
Kill.
Well, they burned down City Hall.
Yeah, but that's just a weekend.
And according to Diane Feinstein, everybody wants to burn down City Hall. But watching this in 4K, it's really funny because
It doesn't look great, no.
yeah, when MI6 blows up, it looks like
a filter, like a TikTok filter.
yeah, no, exactly. Like that thing on your phone where it's just like, oh, I'm filming something on my phone, and then you launch like a rocket at it.
like
and
a
it's just like, you know, that's what it looks like because it has like a bunch of really fake looking debris flying all over the place, like cartoony debris.
I was half expecting that TikTok filter of like a spaceship, like a flying saucer coming down, and just M's reaction of just like,
Well, it's just funny because we get that after we get a little computer email right before, right, where we set up that our villain is hacker Joker.
That's right. Hacking is back.
no. Troy, how dare you compare this to the Joker? This movie stole nothing from The Dark Knight.
Yeah,
This
no, it
has
is
no
completely
similarities with
original.
the Dark Knight's depiction of the Joker.
Any similarities are purely coincidental.
Any similarities to the Joker or Two-Face? Then nothing to do with those two
Nothing
guys.
to do with anything.
Any Batman related. Yeah, and then James Bond sees that MI6 blew up on TV, and he's like,
Thanks to Wolf Blitzer.
thanks to Wolf Blitzer, and which I never like when movies do that, when they have like real news anchors in. I'm like, I don't know. I'm supposed to. It's like if Wolf Blitzer appeared in Dune, and I'm like, I'm supposed to believe that this is like another world.
Do you remember
know?
like Mission Impossible Fallout where he shows up and it's Benji playing Wolf Blitzer? Yeah.
Yeah. He was in Mission Impossible. He was in Batman v Superman. Like, Wolf Blitzer was on a roll in the 2010s.
Yes,
he was in every
this was
movie.
his storied career.
Remember when Bill O'Reilly was in Iron Man 2 going like, what is this Tony Stark guy up to? Should we trust him?
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck
Well,
is
it's
this?
just funny because, like, these guys want you to take them seriously as journalists, but then the second, like, you dangle jingly keys in front of them, they're like, oh, I'll be in Mission Impossible. I'll be
Money.
Simon Pegg. Wait, real quick about the CNN thing. Two things. One, let us not forget in GoldenEye, M said, we're not the Americans. We don't get our news from CNN. Wrong. Liars.
Bond eats his words once again.
Yes.
CNN and the Beatles fully vindicated.
Bond just goes back to him and he's like, have you heard about this evil orange Cheeto man? We have to vote for Hillary. It's like-
Have you heard about the United Shades of America with W. Camo Bell? There's a lot of stuff going on over there.
I'm with her, and M is like, what the hell are you talking about, 007?
But also, this scene represents an important landmark. Maybe not this scene, but a slightly earlier scene. James Bond has sex with a woman, the Daniel Craig version, and she does not die.
The first of many.
The first of many did not die.
The first of one more. No, two more.
I honestly don't really know what about the MI6 blowing up makes James Bond go like, I'm gonna stop living my best life. I guess it's his death wish, like he hates himself, you know?
Well, this
Well, no,
is the
I
thing.
do
is
like
the
that.
Scorpion. We're all the way back to the beginning of Casino Royale again, where he has a death wish. It's a little confusing.
He likes to live life to the fullest. And then he's just like, but I can't let Britain be in danger because Britain's in danger. That's a fuck up on me. I got to go back to work. I think it's fine.
But Skyfall starts the weird thing where, yeah, it's sad in the earlier movies where it's like, he has a death wish and he's a young man. And now this movie starts the teeter-totter of, does he have a death wish and he has his whole life ahead of him? Or does he have a death wish and he's an old, washed-up dog who's better off being put to pasture?
He's a little British bulldog.
Well,
He is a little
as
British
he discusses with M when he breaks into her house, which,
Again.
he's done this before. He's like, you played the game. We're both played out. And maybe this is the scene where she's like, speak for yourself. You're older than me, actually. You know?
in a weird sort of way, you're the old man. I am the younger
That's
woman.
so weird that everyone keeps like, they decided for this and not like A View to a Kill to be the one where everyone's like, you're old. I'm like, he's like 42.
This is Daniel Craig's third movie, and now he's already too old, and he's only been gone for 3 months.
And that's the weird part, right? Is like this movie stole a lot from the Dark Knight trilogy.
No. How dare
And
you?
it also stole the idea that after 2 movies and like 1 year of doing it,
You're an old
you're
dog.
too
Yeah.
old to function. Like you can't
That's
do
it.
it.
Yeah, that's
anymore.
right. I had thought about it.
Yeah,
And this was the same year as The Dark Knight Rises, right?
it is.
Yes.
2012 was a banger year.
Oh, brother. Well, yes, no, it was generally good. I don't include The Dark Knight Rises in that, but I did like all the other.
I
ones.
do.
I liked Amour. That was my favorite action film of 2012.
They're too old, Jans. They're too old.
Yeah, they're too
washed
old. They're
up.
played out.
When Emmanuel Riva tries to get up from that wheelchair was just as riveting to me as seeing Daniel Craig like try to hop on top of that fucking train. It was like
Another indicator that was definitely not taken from The Dark Knight. Now that MI6 is blown up, they have to be in a bunker underground, just like Batman.
Oh yeah, the new MI6, where everyone's allegedly good at their jobs. They will not be good at
They're
their jobs.
all
And-
hacking, except for Bond, because he's so old.
he's so old.
Yeah, no, Bond has been gone for 3 months, and now MI6 is completely different. And Sam Mendes makes a point about it. Like, yeah, Bond is dead, and then he comes back, and the world has changed. I'm like, it's so weird because it's 3 months in the movie. It's not that long.
Fucking Ralph Fiennes is like, what are you, like 80?
Pretty quickly, he meets Q, and he doesn't even, he's like, you're not Q, even though he's never met this guy
But he
before.
references the exploding pens from GoldenEye.
Are you expecting an exploding pen? We don't really go in for that anymore.
Yeah.
In my least favorite line.
Before we get to fully to the Q scene, I gotta say, this thing, there's a few things that no one mentions, but it really bothers me from the scene where he meets up in M's apartment. First of all, M went from having a nice, like, Art Deco penthouse to this fucking, like, grandma shit in the span.
Her husband died.
Oh,
Yeah, her husband died.
okay.
Yeah.
Point
Do you know
addressed.
who's, do you know who's,
Thank you, Troy.
wait, do you know whose house that was? Or the exterior of it?
Whose house was
Who?
it?
It was John Barry's house.
Was he dead? Or was this like in the movie where when he died, they just got his house and all his belongings?
I think it was the latter.
Yeah, as soon as he dies, Eon Productions will auction off his property and let a gamekeeper
Yes.
stay in the remains of the house.
What you're saying, Troy, is like as soon as your husband dies, like you put plastic on the couch and like you bring out the menorahs and shit. Like,
Yep.
you start.
All grandmas bring out the menorahs.
All grandmas
and
start
shit
bringing
once
out the
grandpa
menorahs
dies.
and that those like weird like dog statues. Anyway, that's
Yeah.
point number 1. Point number 2.
Okay.
This is the only scene in the entire fucking thing that's handheld. Why? Did they forget the tripod?
No, it's not.
Yes.
There's
No,
other
it's
handheld
not.
moments.
No, there's
I
more
think, in the
handheld
film.
shots.
Which one?
The beginning part has a lot of handheld.
Yeah, that might be the only dialogue scene.
Okay. This is the only dialogue scene that's handheld.
Yeah,
Why? Why?
because they're on edge.
Because,
Why not?
Because we're nervous because he's going to kill MJ.
Yeah.
Even though he does this all the time.
It's not Quantum of Solace where it's just like, oh my god.
It's so stark to me because the whole movie's so Deakins-esque, like just like everything is so static. And then this is shot like a Lars von Trier movie, this scene. And I just don't get it. It just feels like they forgot the tripod. But anyways,
Apparently this was a reshoot.
well, there you go. I've been vindicated.
I think he was just like, the first time we shot it, it felt like they were too friendly with each other, and I need them to be more antagonistic because that's like the central conflict of
It
the
needs
movie.
to be more sexual, definitely. Yeah.
Based on the script, I thought it was just going to be him walking in and going, bitch, 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 bitch. All right, that's enough, 007. I'm not
Yeah.
done.
I think it's
Bitch,
really funny
bitch,
that this
bitch.
is like the second time that he's broken into this woman's apartment. and she still hires him back. Like, why? Even after
Well, and then
he-
she's like chill about it because they're tight.
no, they're not.
She's going to get fired too. They're
All
both
they seem to
screw-ups.
establish is that she just feels guilty about calling the shot,
Yeah.
even though that is her job.
Yeah.
Even though the shot was kind of a stupid
A
one.
stupid
if you
job,
really
but
think about
She
it.
should
but-
feel bad that she's bad at her job, which Mallory tells her. He's like, "You're bad at your job. Why don't you leave with some dignity?"
Which is a
And she's
good
like,
point.
"I'll never leave with some dignity." You
Yeah, she's
asshole."
like, well, at least let me clean up my mess. I'm hiring a blatantly unqualified man
Yeah,
to go
now
on
let
this
me go
mission.
hire a man
Yes.
that did not hit like a single mark on his shooting range test.
Yeah, it's like this alcoholic drug addict who like can't hold up his arm to fire a gun, can't even do 20 push-ups
It's
and
completely
pull-ups.
broken if you bring up his childhood home.
Yeah.
If you bring up his childhood home, he is
By
like
the way,
catatonic.
this is the most Pierce Brosnan that Daniel Craig has ever
Yes.
been in these movies, is when, after clearly failing everything, M lies going like, well, you barely passed, and Daniel Craig is just like, yeah.
And then Mallory's like, he scored. What did he score? He scored like a 14.
Yeah.
Like some absurdly low number.
It's like, why is any of this plot happening? But it's very funny to me. I go with it. I roll with this shit.
Because she trusts him.
Why? He's fucked up
Why?
constantly.
What has he done?
Because he is the only guy who's crazy enough to go to the ends of the earth to get the job done.
But because he's crazy enough to go to the ends of
What?
the earth, they end up bringing a major terrorist into the heart of London, and he kills everyone.
Yes.
It's a mistake that anyone would make.
Okay, Casino Royale, he failed the mission. Quantum of Solace, I don't know, like, what that was.
Well, he got information about a shadowy organization, but then he ended up killing their only witness by
He
leaving him
was
in the
so
desert.
bad in that mission that M canceled his American Express. And then
Well,
the beginning
yeah.
of this one, he fucking dies. Like, why is he...
Also, wait, can we point out, I forget if we're at the point of the movie where this starts popping up. This movie confirms that everyone else at MI6 uses a fake name when they're an agent, except for James Bond.
Wait,
Why?
what's the other example?
Raul Silva is not his real name. He doesn't know Eve's real name.
Oh, but I thought that was his supervillain name.
Yeah, that's a supervillain name.
Oh, no, I thought, but no, because they said his real name is on the wall, but they never are, like, calling him by his real name.
Yeah, no, because now that's his new identity.
No, wait, but then in the YouTube video, when he blows the 5 agents' covers, they all have
Oh, yeah,
alternate
his
names.
YouTube poop, yeah.
Because they're embedded into terrorist organizations, so they're
My
undercover
point
agents.
being is that every other agent we see in this movie has an alternate name, except for James Bond.
James Bond is just a bad spy. Can we just leave it at that? Sometimes Ralph Fiennes introduces himself as Ray Fiennes for some reason.
Wait, can we talk about Ray Fiennes? I forget if it's this point in the movie, but they're like, hey, Bond, don't judge a book by its cover. Mallory was the head of the Northern Ireland police during the Troubles. He got kidnapped by the IRA for
Yeah.
6 months. He's been through a lot. And I'm like, go to hell.
It's Troy and his 10% Irish blood
I'm back!
is
I was gonna say,
boiling
yeah,
right
the-
now.
I'm bloodied up.
The animosity is palpable.
He's just like, I knew I didn't like this guy.
Okay, so then he talks to Q.
Yeah, then we get to Q,
Yes.
and he's like, wait a minute, you're not Q. And we're like, what? Like, what is this time?
There hasn't
So-
been a Q since 1999.
No, since 2002, because John Cleese took on the
He
Q
officially
name.
Yeah.
was not R anymore. Okay.
Yes, he got promoted.
Yeah, so you're simultaneously going like, we're reintroducing Q, but we're also using the audience's knowledge about Q. We're just like, where Bond is seemingly aware of the audience's knowledge of the earlier movies, which don't exist in this timeline.
So this is why this and Casino Royale are the best ones to me, because those are the only ones that you can watch without having seen a bunch of other movies. Like, this one fulfills the promise of like, okay, we had our origin story for Bond, and then now what?
You're like, Casino Royale and Skyfall are the only 2 standalone James Bond movies. And I'm like, there's
no,
at
no,
least
I said in
18
the Daniel
standalone
Craig era.
Okay, all right.
Because
I'm like,
Skyfall is the only one after Casino Royale that you can just watch by itself.
yeah,
And it fulfills the promise
It's
of
the
like
Goldfinger.
after the exactly, it's the Goldfinger. It's the promise that after the origin story, we will get our classic anthology like James Bond movies. They fuck it up later, but this one they are doing that, and they're bringing all back the classics getting the Beatles back together. You got your Q, but now he's a twink. And you got your classic M office at the end and yada yada.
But they're all bad at their jobs. Q is a garbage hacker, and
Yes.
Eve is like, James Bond's like, you're a bad field agent. Get out
Because,
of the
yeah,
field.
like immediately he
suck.
shows up and it's like, were you expecting an exploding pen? You
I
got
hate
a
that
gun
line.
and a radio.
Not exactly Christmas, is it?
And it begs the question of like, well, what? Okay, we're finally bringing Q here, and there's no gadgets. There's still no gadgets, but Q's
Here's
here.
the thing
you
that's
know?
completely fucked up. Okay, let me talk about this because I watched the behind the scenes of this and they talk about it. They're like, yeah, we made the decision to bring Q back. And people kept asking me, are there going to be gadgets in this one finally? Are there going to be gadgets in this one finally?
He'll have a gadget, a gun.
Yeah, no, it's just like, here's the problem is that everybody has a gadget in their pocket now. So
Yeah.
there's nothing interesting. And I'm like, you do know that the gadgets weren't just utilities, but they were also like grenades or a gun or a laser, you know, stuff that like doesn't exist on an iPhone yet.
An invisible car.
An invisible car. And then they're just, and then Sam Mendes is like, yeah, so I thought it'd be nice. He gets a gun that's tailored to his palm print. And I thought that was unique. And I'm just like, they did this in License to Kill.
Yes, they did.
What I hate about this line, which is also representative of something that I don't like about this movie in general, and it's a trend that we saw a lot with the 2010s nostalgia. It was done also a lot by like the Disney remakes. This is much better than that, but you know what I mean. Is this whole thing?
Is it though? No, it is.
No, it is. Come on, it's this whole.
Where the thing that you like is stupid. Our thing is realistic and better.
No. What I was gonna say, it's this thing of like having this insane reverence to the things of old, the things of the past, of saying like, yeah, we're gonna make you come with bringing Q back and bringing the Aston Martin back and bringing a male M back and Moneypenny and all these things. But at the same time, we're gonna say that all this is stupid, right? And it's like, what is it? Are you fixing it or do you love it or do you hate it? What the fuck?
Make up your mind.
Make up your mind.
That's the thing that you kind of get with Sam Mendes. You're just like, I'm sure he liked James Bond at some point, but then he grew up and he's just like, I put childish things aside.
I think he likes James Bond.
Like I said, it's like the thing with the Disney remakes where it's like shot for shot remake because we have so much respect for those original works. But they also sucked and we're fixing them. It's like, what?
We're fixing them. We're fixing
like, what
it
the
now.
fuck? You know?
Yeah, I'll say it again. The fact that he comes bearing basically no gadgets begs the question of like, well, why is he here?
I do like the implication that the exploding pen and the old Aston Martin imply that in the Daniel Craig universe, there was an era where MI6 agents got crazy gadgets. It was just before James Bond's time. Like, that's
it's just
wild
like,
to
no
me. That
fun for you, audience. But then the rest of the movie's pretty fun.
Well, yeah, again, it's like they take the piss out of it, and then later he's threatening M with the ejector seat.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre.
It's weird because this should be a very lean screenplay, and it is in terms of pacing, but the themes of it are so fucking contradictory.
Yeah, they're all over the place. What do we think of the dynamic between Daniel Craig and Ben Whishaw?
Oh, I like it. It's just reversed.
I like it.
Yeah, grumpy agent, twinky, sassy boyfriend. I mean, Q. I don't know why I said boyfriend.
Don't act like it was a mistake.
That's not a mistake, Jan. We're all thinking it.
I'm sorry, guys. Just since Bill Tanner, twinks have been on my mind 24/7.
But also, in No Time to Die, I believe they will confirm that this Q does have a husband. So
No, he has a boyfriend.
Yeah.
No, he's dating somebody.
He's the first official gay Disney character.
The first official gay Disney character is Q from Sony Pictures Skyfall. Oh, real quick, Timothy Dalton should have made his cameo when they're looking at the old warship and he's crying a little bit and he's like, beautiful painting, isn't it? and
What?
he's like sobbing, and he like walks away. That's where I would put Timothy Dalton in the
In
movie.
the art gallery when he meets Q.
Yes.
But there is no character that
When he's looking at the Turner painting.
Exactly. I'm adding him in.
Okay.
Yes.
Troy, your weird fan fiction of I mean, I get what you're gonna say about the other ones that you haven't mentioned yet.
Yes, the other
But
ones
these
are
first
good.
two are like so much of a stretch. I'm convinced your mind is melted from TV tropes.
Okay, so Shanghai. So again, part of my problem with this movie, they set up that James Bond is not on his A game. He's bad at everything. He failed all the tests, but then he pretty much just operates normally for the rest of the movie.
Yes, correct.
Well, until he hangs onto the elevator.
Oh, for like a
and
second.
His
Like,
arm
for like
gives out.
half a second.
Roger Moore would do something like that like every
Roger
5
Moore
minutes. where
would
he's like,
slip and die. It's no, but that's on one hand. On the other hand, he's on his same game, and all the action scenes are awesome, and everything here in Shanghai and all the neon lights.
It's so
I
cool.
have no idea what's happening in this first scene in Shanghai, but it looks killer.
It's classic Bond. I don't know what's happening. I'm enjoying it. You know, classic
Yeah,
Bond.
no, well, he's just following a guy into a building. That's it. That's all you need to know. Oh, also, something really, really funny. If you notice, Daniel Craig's hands, when he has the gun and he's sneaking up on Patrice when he's about to assassinate that guy who's looking at the painting, his hands are CGI.
No, I heard. I looked at it closely and I didn't pick up on it. I heard that he had gloves, right?
Yeah, here's the thing. I guess when they filmed it, Daniel Craig was like, I found these gloves. These look really cool, right? And Sam Mendes was like, yeah, that's fine. Wear them. And then they realized, oh, wait, one of his gadgets is a palm reader.
The one gadget they came up with in the
The
entire
one
movie
of two gadgets Bond has the entire
which they
time.
established in the scene right before this.
Right beforehand. And so he's just like, oh, fuck. So we have like a shot of him in the car when he takes off his gloves and he holds the gun clicks on. And then he climbs up the elevator, no gloves on his hands. So we've established there's no gloves on his hands. Gets into the building, no gloves on his hands. He pulls out the gun. They're completely CGI. If you look really closely, the gun kind of floats a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's only in a couple shots. Most of the time it looks pretty good and you won't notice it.
Maybe he's Muad'Dib.
Listen, I gave.
Maybe he's Quisak Haderach.
But stop it with the Dune references.
Sorry.
Famously floating hands, Paul Atreides. Okay.
Yeah. So and then he fights the guy in that really cool one shot, which we'll talk about next probably. And then he knocks the guy out. And yeah, Jen, you were saying all of a sudden he has gloves on his hands.
Yeah, and it's part of the scene that like he slips because he has gloves on.
Yeah, he
Right.
slips because the gloves are too smooth.
It's an important note that Daniel Craig Bond does not intentionally throw a guy off a building, unlike Roger Moore.
Yes.
He had to keep him alive, so it means that Daniel Craig was a stupid actor for choosing to wear gloves, and also James Bond was a stupid spy for choosing to wear gloves.
Also, fire your script supervisor for not picking up on this.
Sam Mendes is nodding his head like, yeah, that's Daniel Craig and James Bond's fault. That's not me.
He just went so method that he couldn't be held accountable for his choices.
He went rogue. We canceled all his credit cards, but he kept buying gloves.
Yes, but as we just said, this is one of those oneers. At least the actual like hand-to-hand fighting is a oneer with sick Deakins, reflections, silhouettes, all the stuff, all of your one perfect shot social media accounts feasts.
That's me, by the way. I'm one perfect shot. This is my face reveal.
Why'd you stop making YouTube videos? One perfect shot.
Because I was bad. I was a bad YouTuber.
At least you're man enough to admit it. Okay, so the guy they're fighting here now, this is the guy who he was fighting on the train at the beginning, right? Because he dug the bullet out of his wound and had them run tests on it?
Yeah, no, so
Okay.
it turns out that the bullet that he got shot with in the beginning is a very specific type of bullet that only a few people have.
A golden bullet.
No, it is a uranium bullet or something.
All right.
It's a depleted uranium shell, military grade. Hard to get, extremely expensive, and only used by a select few.
Which I don't know what the fuck that means. So you have the silhouettes, and every time they fire the gun, you have like brief illuminations of like their face.
Yeah,
And
it's
I've
cool
always
as fuck.
wondered, I'm like, how the fuck did they do that? I'm like, did they do that on set or was that like a post thing?
No, it had to be on set, right?
Yeah. Well, Paul and I were talking about it because I wasn't sure. And then finally I watched the behind the scenes. And yeah, all they had were squibs. When the squibs went off, there was also like a light that would shoot on when the squibs went off.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it illuminated their faces briefly. And I'm like, oh.
Looks awesome.
But also, I want to point out that the scene they're kind of aiming the gun at, like, and sniping at a guy who's buying a painting privately, which is where you see Berenice Malot's Severine, who you'll
Yes.
meet again in the next scene.
Dog shit character.
Yes, the painting they're auctioning was a real painting that was recently stolen at the time, and it's implied that Raul Silva stole that painting, which is a reference to
Dr.
Dr.
No.
No, where he also would steal.
A painting that was never recovered.
Yes.
Well, now I want to get out of this fucking building because I want to talk
Yeah,
about
we're
a
leaving.
certain Eve. We don't know her last name, but Eve.
Played by Naomi Harris.
We don't even know her name is Eve yet.
Not yet. We're getting there.
Well, I guess it's Bond's. She's a field agent, right? And then like
Yeah.
she comes to his room in China and she's like shaving him,
Shaving his balls.
like giving him a rim job or whatever. And
No. That's too much. The playful
Shaving the
flirtation
balls
only.
is totally platonic, you know?
yeah, you've shaved my balls, Jake. When we were roommates, you
Yeah,
shaved
no.
my balls all the time.
Yeah, no, like it's that's something that you do.
Paul looks so horrified.
One night, Jake couldn't shave Jan's balls anymore, so another roommate had to fill in, and that's the story of how Jan met his
Melissa.
wife.
Honey, we're still on for the ball shaving tomorrow. Okay, good. But yes, I think whenever Naomi Harris shows up, Naomi Harris is a fantastic actress. Like, if you've ever seen, you know, shit like Moonlight, among others. You know,
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Pirates of the Caribbean. She's a great actress. And here, whenever she's on screen, I'm like, what the fuck is this non-character? Like, it feels awkward when she's flirting with Bond.
It's a very weird treatment of whoever this is supposed to be, because, like, they're trying to recreate the flirty dynamic of Bond and Moneypenny, but it's all in, like, I shot you, I'm sorry, and he's like, you suck, you're stupid. I might
Go
have
to a
sex
desk.
with you.
You suck.
Yeah.
And then I'll be back in the field.
It's what you want.
Yes, of course.
It's not for everyone.
Women belong behind the desk. Am I right?
Yeah, and I'm like,
fellas?
Exactly. Where it's just like, this is kind of a weird dynamic, but okay, they're flirty. Honestly, they have pretty good chemistry, especially during the shaving the balls scene.
You think so? It feels weird to me.
Yeah, it feels weird to me because
So
the
yeah,
script.
I'm actually kind of into it.
You were full mast?
Yeah, no, I was full mast. I was saluting. You know, like how when she gets really big in Pirates of the Caribbean.
That happened in Skyfall also. She turned into a bunch of crabs.
Right. So I could say that wasn't the only thing getting big during the scene, if you catch my
Oh,
drift.
Roy.
Miss
Right.
Moneypenny was...
But without the crabs.
But without the crabs, or so
Yeah,
you
it
think.
was sick. Yeah, I thought it was a weird choice at the end of this movie when Miss Moneypenny reveals that she's Calypso, the ocean goddess.
So the
Classic
villain,
casino scene.
Yes, we're back, baby. It feels like James Bond again.
He's fighting lizards.
our villain that we haven't met yet is doxing agents.
Yeah, on YouTube.
Which we've been demonetized for that in the past. It's a common problem.
Yes. You can't just do that anymore. It kind of sucks.
Yeah,
You know, the
that's not
direction
cool.
at YouTube, it used to be about broadcast yourself, and that's part of, you know, you're supposed to dox undercover agents.
I already doxed myself, like, accidentally. I think I give out my postal code and never say never again.
Jan, you have a stalker. They're coming to
Oh,
get you.
jeez.
Yeah, they're coming to
I
get
hope
you.
we never make it big.
Okay, yes, but casino.
Yeah, looks great, very
The
orange.
entrance where he's just standing in the suit, like that is one of the best shots.
The tiniest suit of all time.
Yes.
Tiniest suit of all time, but there's so many big dragons and the water, and it looks so big.
That's the thing with this movie. It's just like this movie is kind of broken a bit on a storytelling level, but But it's
but
so
it is
cool.
a feast for the eyes. Yeah.
He's so cool. It should have been Chris Pratt as James Bond.
Oh, don't jinx it, Jan.
It's a me, a Mario.
Yeah, because we've talked about Sam Mendes and like, does he get this? Does he get that? But it's so weird after seeing the last couple Bond movies. I'll even include Die Another Day in this. It's so cool to see a James Bond movie that looks like a James Bond movie again.
Yeah.
And it's all modern looking.
Honestly, better than any James Bond movie has ever looked.
It's the best looking one by far, yeah.
I mean, it's sort of looking like a James Bond movie again, but
In a different way. Like they showed, in the earlier movies, they showed like how cool the sets were or how like awesome the locations were by just shooting it. And now we have the same thing, but it's Roger Deakins doing it.
it's more of, I mean, yes, that is the thing about this movie, I would say, that is definitely a shift. Not since the John Glenn era have we had a movie that kind of just took its time with everything and wasn't super high octane and luxuriated and everything. But it is hilarious that, I mean, we've noted often that for a franchise where often the camera work is the weakest and sometimes you're shocked to now you're shocked for the opposite reason.
Yes,
it's
because
amazing.
it's good. I will say everything visually, cinematography, production design wise, it's the most interesting and good looking it's been since the 1964 Casino Royale.
Wait, there was no 1964 Casino Royale.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Now I know. Why did you say that movie?
Wait, what are you talking about? Oh my God.
No!
Yeah, like, what? No. There was no 64 Casino. What could he ever be talking about?
What's he doing on this podcast? Jake, we have to fire him. Get rid of him. He belongs behind a desk.
Fieldwork's not for everyone.
Yes, not since Mata Bond danced in the palace.
Exactly, not
have
since
we
Mata
seen
Bond.
images so beautiful.
Not since East Germany's cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
Yeah.
Guys,
Oh,
Stanley
God.
Kubrick did not light the climax of The Spy Who Loved Me to be run over in this matter.
Well, I'm sorry, Stanley, but Roger's got something to say.
The scene is very cool, very stylish. He fights some lizards.
The gun gadget works.
Well, this whole scene is kind of makes it feel more like a Indiana Jones movie or like a Roger Moore movie where it's just like
he does the live and let die alligator step on the Komodo
he does
dragon.
do a live and let die alligator step, but then like when they fall into the Komodo dragon pit, they're just like pointing out like there's a Komodo dragon right there, and he's like mugging the camera a la Harrison Ford in Temple of Doom.
I love it.
And that's pretty fun. My only thing is I'm like, I wish it was on a little bit longer, but I guess it's fine. It's still a good scene.
Yeah, they pack in all the popcorn entertainment bits into this one. He jumps out, makes a quip.
Circle of life.
Everyone claps. It's like...
I sure hope No Time to Die doesn't pack all the popcorn entertainment into one scene exactly 45 minutes into the movie. Stinky.
It'd be a fun scene.
Yeah, it would be a good scene. He'd probably have chemistry with a Bond girl in that scene who then wouldn't be in the rest of the movie, too.
He'd have more chemistry than than the mother of his child.
Well, isn't that true for everyone?
I don't know. I'm just riffing right now. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so should we talk about the love interest of this movie?
Berenice.
Severin?
Oh, yeah, Severine. Severine, played by Berenice. Very beautiful lady, very bad character.
You know what's funny? My grandpa is just like, my favorite Bond girl is Severine in
Whatever you're gonna
Skyfall.
say, I'm gonna stop you right here. I don't want to hear this story. I don't see how this is relevant to James Bond.
And I have to say, he's onto something because she's very, very hot.
Yeah, she's very hot.
Yeah, but her backstory's a mess. She's like a sex slave who's like owned by Silva.
It's like the classic thing where it's just like Bond is going like, you're actually being controlled by him, and also you were part of the Macau sex trade until he bought you out of it. Right, and he like breaks her down that way, which you're just kind of like, this is kind of a weird development.
It's trying to do what he did with Vesper, except this time he's just like, you were human trafficked, and she's just like, yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And then it makes it just horrible when he just jumps in the shower uninvited.
Yes.
With her. That's just like, oh, we're back in Roger Moore territory. Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, here's the thing. It's weird because I think Sam Mendes is trying his best to make it look less creepy than it does because they've established that like she's expecting him to get on the boat and sleep with him. And when we cut to her in the boat, she has a bottle of champagne and some ice, which suggests a romantic night.
She does say, if you don't die, if they don't kill you, come to my place. So I guess there is some attempt to try to make it.
Like, I'm giving it the minimal amount of credit.
No. If a girl flirts with you, you can't just jump with her in the shower.
No, you can't. But that's what's weird. But you can also see the logic of what they were trying to figure out with the scene.
They should have thought about it a bit more.
It doesn't work, but those were the attempts.
Again, a throwback to 50 years earlier.
Exactly.
Again, the whole thing of like, we're elevating James Bond by giving you exactly the same, baby. It's like
we're elevating James Bond by being mean to women.
Let's get to, in my, like, one of the best fucking parts of this movie. I know, he's the Joker, whatever. Javier Bardem, I still like him a lot.
Javier Bardem is one of the best villains in the entire series.
Hands down, yes.
I mean, Craig era, like, thank God, it's been so long since, it's been 10 years since Gustav Graves. I need some Joker energy back in my life.
You need some scenery chewing, deformed, weirdo bad guy.
He does it great. He's chewing up the scenery. He's so much fun. He's got another weird haircut, which seemed to be his niche in this time period.
Apparently, he really insisted. He's like, I will do this, but here's the catch. I want to have a different hair. I want to have different eyes. I want to completely change my face. And Sam Mendes was just like, oh God, what is he gonna fucking do? And then he walked in the set, nobody recognized him, and then he's just like, oh yeah, that works. Okay.
If I'm allowed to give out a kind of a non sequitur anecdote, I remember when I saw this for the first time when I was in high school, I had a classmate who I remember I was saying like, oh, I loved Javier Bardem in it. He was so much fun. And he was like, no, he sucked. Anton Chigurh would kill this guy in a fight, and I was like, "What just happened in your mind? Like, what the fuck?"
Every time he sees Javier Bardem, he has to think of Anton Chigurh
would kill his
new character.
It's like Anton Chigurh would kill his. I'm like, I guess.
What was he thinking when he watched Being the Ricardos?
She's taking the spotlight. Anton Chigurh would not take this nonsense.
Anton Chigurh would kill Desi Arnaz.
Don't put it in the storyline. Don't put it in the storyline, Lucille. Don't put it there.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
I got J. Edgar.
I got J. Edgar Hoover.
J. Edgar Hoover. He's calling in. He's calling.
Call it.
All right.
Is she a communist? Call it.
Javier Bardem does a great job, but everyone who's heard me talk about Skyfall knows I'm a broken record on this. What this movie needed, nay, demanded, was for Pierce Brosnan to come back and play this character. Come on!
I love Javier Bardem, but that would have been really funny if it was Pierce Brosnan too.
Okay, but like I knew you were saying this, Troy, but what is the basis for that other than he was tortured?
No, well, exactly. He basically has the backstory of Raul Silva.
Pierce Brosnan should be the bad guy?
He should be the one to take out M.
What?
He should be the one to take out M.
That makes no sense.
Because
I was on
he feels betrayed by her, and he has that intimacy. Because the whole issue with Raul Silva, and every time they do this kind of story, is this guy comes out of nowhere, and at least Pierce Brosnan brings that chemistry with Judi Dench back. And I've argued in many an episode on this series that the Pierce Brosnan James Bond is a supervillain, and that Pierce needs to play a sociopathic.
No, he's not a supervillain. Stop it.
Like, no, Javier Bardem is like, oh, I'm in a little police outfit. Pierce Brosnan would be like, oh, I'm in a little police outfit. Smile, shoots a woman in the head. He'd do it without a second thought. He has killer eyes.
I will give you a Pierce Brosnan playing that. I don't think it's because he's the most evil James Bond, which I still disagree with you on. But like, it would be kind of funny as a bit of stunt casting, because you could definitely, if you really want to play up the fact that he's like a mirror image to Bond, what better way to do it than having a recent James Bond play?
Yeah.
But we already have one stunt casting here that didn't even make it in the movie.
Exactly, but I'm saying in this hypothetical world where all of the James Bonds are in this movie, James Bond No Way Home, Pierce needs to be the villain. And him killing M would mirror him getting revenge on Barbara Broccoli for firing him.
Yeah. Okay. That could be cool.
If you have to make it meta, yes.
He would have to kill Mallory too, because Mallory was the head of the Northern Irish Police during the Troubles. So he's got to rack up the body count here.
Yes.
James Bond joined the IRA. No, all I don't understand about this villain is what the fuck is like a Portuguese guy doing, like joining the MI6?
And that's my other thing, is it's like, all right, the Joker's like, what? He doesn't make sense as an ex-secret agent.
That I didn't quite get. But, you know, I love this villain because he's basically the Joker kind of thing. But he's also basically Alec Trevelyan, but good. You know, like,
but Alec Trevelyan was already good, but then they actually like his plan is better.
Yeah, but it's the same shtick of like, oh, the system that I worked for betrayed me and now I'm bad, you know, but this is more interesting because it's more personal. He just wants to kill M.
This is the only movie where I feel the anti-Bond shtick works really well. Well, Man with the Golden Gun, but the issue is whenever they try to do anti-Bond, they can't resist going, and I have a giant laser. I'm going to blow up a city. James Bond does not have a giant laser. He does not want to blow up a city. What does that have to do with being the anti-Bond?
The weird thing about him being the anti-Bond is that, like, one of his defining character traits is that he's, like, the best hacker in the world. And I'm like, I don't know. Why is... Okay.
Everyone's a hacker in this movie.
And he's also supposed to be older because he worked for MI6 from the late 80s to the mid-90s.
They look the same age. Also, the fucking tuxedo that Craig is wearing on this scene, is getting me all hot and fucking bothered.
It's really cool.
It's really fucking cool.
It's not quite blue. It's not quite black. It's somewhere in between.
No, and like Daniel Craig, he's shown us he can do the moody, tortured Bond, whatever. In this one, he's showing us that he can do, you know, he's an A+, just like stoic, suave Bond as well. He is pulling the suave.
Well, I mean, I think he's already been funny, but yeah, no, he's carrying that clothing like nobody's fucking business. And then we also get the part where Javier Bardem is hitting on him.
Yeah, he's like jerking him off.
It's either we eat each other or we eat everyone else. There's always a first time for everything.
Yeah, I masturbated to completion during that scene, but I also think like James
during
Bond
James Bond's uniquely gay moment.
Well, first time for everything. What makes you think this is my first time? Oh, Mr. Bond.
I couldn't fully understand what he was saying, so I thought he was gonna like start whipping his balls again. He's like, this isn't my first time. You know?
I think that's what he's actually referring to.
Oh, okay. All right. That's
when he
fine,
starts
then.
shaving his balls, he's like, Moneypenny just did this 5 minutes ago. No, but I also think like doing this Bond as more just like a stoic and just like a tool for the plot, even though Sam Mendes thinks this is a character study or whatever. But no, it's more so that. But I think it works because that kind of Bond contrasts really well with the very wacky type of villain, especially in this scene where Javier Bardem's just gonna like, I am gonna suck your penis, Mr. Bond, and he's just like, oh, you know, like,
oh my,
he's just like, do it,
go for it, bitch. Yeah.
Oh, fun fact about this set is that they knew that Raul Silva's introduction would be him doing that long monologue. And apparently they built the set to the specifications that they knew it would need for Javier Bardem to say that whole monologue as he came close.
Yeah, Sam Mendes recited the speech, and he walked from one end of the stage to the other end of the stage, and he's like, okay, the set's going to be this long.
It's a great introduction and it's different. It's not like he's coming out of the shadows or something. It's very cool.
Usually when the villains are introduced, it's just like, they're there.
I do admit there's part of me that wishes Raul Silva was introduced earlier in the movie. I think I've said before in the podcast, I like it when the villains are more or less there the whole time.
I like that he's kept a mystery. It's like Blofeld.
Yeah, I guess
it's like when you really think about it, you're just like, wait, he doesn't appear like until halfway through the movie. But then you're also like, I don't really care because it feels like he has such an impact on the movie.
Just like the Joker. The Joker's only in the Dark Knight for like 15 minutes total, but
wait, but Jan, he's in the very first scene.
I don't know, I was drunk.
He's the first character you meet.
Well, look, the point is this scene makes up for the gap of not seeing him. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
But now we get to one of the most uncomfortable moments in the movie.
This is the worst scene in the movie. I hate this. I hate this
This is
scene.
pretty high up for me, yeah.
I think it's fine.
First of all, this is the first time that it's like, oh, right, like he's supposed to not be on his A game. Like, he misses. Yeah, but it's the only time in the entire movie that's a problem, you know?
And then Silva just shoots her in the head and goes, I win! And then James Bond's like, waste of good scotch.
I win. What do you say to that? It's a waste of good scotch.
And then James Bond just does a fucking quip. And I'm just like, you asshole. Like,
Okay, this is the dumbest fucking critique of the scene, because it's obviously because he obviously cares that she just got shot.
He was real broken up about it.
What has Bond done with every single person who dies? He just shuts down
It's
and
usually
buries
not
it.
that horrible. This reminds me of Diamonds Are Forever when Plenty O'Toole is drowned on the pool and he's just drinking a rum and coke like in a beach chair.
I will give you that. He's more callous to that, but he actually cares because it's such a moment when he's aiming the gun, but he knows he can't hit the target, and then he doesn't. And he's just like, oh shit, this person's dead.
I'll give you the counterpoint. He cries for M, does not cry for this.
Exactly. I would say that.
Well, because that's unprofessional, but it's also established that like he has more of a personal connection to M.
Jake, I think my counterpoint is that if you think about it, every single time a Bond ally died or an innocent died, James Bond was always not in the room. He wasn't with VJ. He wasn't with Kareem Bey. He isn't with all these people when they die. I think this is the
Unless
first...
they're bad, and then he kills them.
Yes, unless they're bad and he's killed them. This is the first time we see James Bond basically stand by and watch someone else get shot, and it's just kind of a tossed away moment.
I don't know if it's the first time, but it's definitely too much. It's not just bad for the character, but it's bad for the tone. It gives really bad tonal whiplash.
I mean, I think he could have played the Ways to Good Scotch line differently, but then the way bigger tonal whiplash is like 10 seconds after that, where it's like, it's called a radio.
Latest thing from Q-Bros. Called a radio.
Yeah,
exactly.
like,
burn out.
And she's dead. She's still in the shot. Her corpse is still in the shot.
Her corpse is like, she's bleeding out of her forehead and is like,
yeah, that's the tonal whiplash of this scene.
Yeah. It's not like I hate the movie now. It's just I don't dig this scene that much.
Well, it just confirms to me that this is in the running for one of the worst love interests, I'd say.
Oh yeah, no, she sucks.
Yeah, it just wasted.
Yeah, well, because the movie is so focused on either killing women or putting them behind a desk.
Yeah,
Oh no.
I'm deconstructing Bond by saying that everything he does is based and correct.
Well, we already been there. That was GoldenEye.
Yeah, exactly.
But now it looks pretty.
GoldenEye was actually more tasteful with the Bond women.
This is like a more pretentious version of GoldenEye, but also like more fun somehow.
Yeah, no, I agree that it's more fun to watch than GoldenEye.
Fun is not the word I would use, but okay.
Weirdly enough, this scene, in theory, I'm like, yeah, I guess there is the tonal whiplash. I don't feel it for some reason. Maybe I'm just...
Shockingly, this is only the 55th example of Jake being like, it's bad, but whatever. I don't care.
Whatever. Well, you don't feel it, Jake, because this is a scene where you're on the bathroom cleaning yourself after masturbating to completion from the Bond and Silva scene that came right before.
Well, yes,
That's
exactly.
why a lot of people don't talk about this scene. They just think Silva ends up in a jail cell by himself because it happened in the Avenger.
Right. Well, I guess sidebar, since we're here, I was like, holy shit, what is this place? It's fake, it's a set, but it is based on a real island near Japan.
Yeah. It's the abandoned island from the nuclear shit.
Because apparently Raul Silva was the Hong Kong guy, but he was like hacking China for fun. So M was like, yeah, we'll just give him up.
That set looks amazing. Like, again, it's the return of the evil layer, and it's not too outlandish, but it's pretty fucking silly and fun.
It's cool.
Yeah, all it is like a couple empty buildings, and then inside one of the buildings is a bunch of servers.
Okay, you're not making it sound as cool as I thought.
It walks the line. And I'll note also, again, when you've got our boy Roger Deak.
The Dick.
Cranking those lenses. He's tech savvy enough that, like, there's a ton of CG in this movie that is fairly unnoticed. you know.
Some
Sticks out more than others, but like a lot of that island is completely CG.
Yeah.
A lot of that fight in Shanghai is completely CG. You know, a lot of the finale is completely CG.
A lot of Daniel Craig's hands are completely CG.
Yes, I mean, no, literally, like significant portions of the movie, his body is CG. Like,
right.
No, I mean, even in this next scene, like the CG's kind of wonky when he takes his teeth out, but it's still like such an upsetting image that I'll let it slide.
Yeah.
And this whole scene in general, to me, it's like I'll go full Jake here, and I'll say I shouldn't.
Oh god.
Yeah, I'm like I shouldn't like it because it's just a ripoff of The Dark Knight, but I think Javier Bardem and Judi Dench sell it, and I really like it.
But this scene was so weird because, again, I did not see Skyfall in 2012. It's so weird to me that Skyfall and the Avengers with Loki in the jail cell, like, ripped off The Dark Knight in the exact same way. Like, they're the exact same scene. And I'm like,
he's like, oh my God, he wanted to get captured. But again, it's like he managed to do, because it's also the Two-Face thing of like, wait a minute, look at me. And I'll say, I don't know if this is bad. I mean, no offense. But when he takes out his upper jaw, he kind of looks like Jaws.
Oh, Richard Keel. Yeah, I was thinking about the
like
shark.
Yes. No, he doesn't look like a shark. Come on.
There might be a little nod there. I don't know. I think it's very wacky when he takes his teeth out. I like it.
Where like there's like a giant metal piece that like supports his cheekbone.
Yeah, I don't know how that works, but it's cool.
No, but again, what I really like about this whole villain is that it really shows you Bond is upset at M for calling the shot, and James Bond's like, you don't care about me. And then, but this villain really shows like how ridiculous that whole thing is, because this whole villain is just like, you led me to die. I choked on the China. Yeah. And James Bond watching this, and he's probably just thinking like, oh wait, this is just our job. Like,
yeah, suck it up, you baby.
We just established this 2 movies ago that this is my job.
And this is I'll go back to Casino Royale, because I was saying the ending of that movie is M manipulating James Bond, becoming a motherly figure for him, so she does his bidding.
She does his bidding?
So he does her bidding.
Okay.
And this movie confirms, or maybe he fucks her, I don't know. But this movie
well, she is a Bond girl.
Yeah, she's a Bond girl. This movie confirms that the ending of Casino Royale is about that, because this whole movie is about the repercussions of what happens when you attach yourself emotionally to this person, when you see it as a motherly figure and not just as your fucking boss.
See, but I feel that this movie throws out Casino Royale to create yet another origin story for how this guy gets the gun barrel.
No, enough origin stories. We're done with it.
I kind of agree with Troy on that.
Well,
yes!
Again, the purported goal is to break him down and rebuild him. So it's not an origin. It's just kind of like cyclical.
A reaffirmation.
Yeah. This isn't an origin story. We break Bond down and somehow he ends up just like he is at the beginning of Dr. No.
Okay, I get that, but what about the gun barrel?
The gun barrel pops up again at the end. Now he's the gun barrel James Bond.
Well, at the very end? Okay.
Yeah.
But that's not an origin story. That just pops up.
But that's why they did it in Quantum of Solace. That was the excuse. It's like, now he's James Bond.
Now he's got the Bond family.
Okay, so this movie is both like, Bond. Oh, you're an old dog, you should retire, and it's also his origin story.
Exactly. That's what I've been saying. That's the
maybe
problem.
We should talk about, is that hilariously, you mentioned the Avengers, Jan.
I mentioned the Avengers.
What?
No. It was all me. I'm the genius.
Both of these films from 2012 go on and on about sometimes the old-fashioned ways are best. And this film ends with he's become Sean Connery and he's taken on iconography that we haven't seen in decades, which is hilarious that he's rebuilt into basically probably what Sam Mendes remembers from his childhood.
Yeah, it's weird because as an impressionable teenager, when all the classic iconography comes back, that's what I loved about it. And I was like, I clapped when I saw M's like cushiony door, you know?
Yeah.
And now all that stuff is the stuff that kind of like keeps this movie from being a masterpiece for me.
Yeah,
you know?
I want to talk about that later when we hit it, but yes, that the movie is very tonally confused on if Bond, like, Bond is still relevant, but also he's not.
Yeah.
These are all the things that I find really weird about it, but it doesn't really matter for me because all the scene.
No, I know what you're saying. They don't really ruin it for me either.
No, because you're so into from moment to moment to moment, like the relationship with them, and you're also awed by the spectacle of it and how beautiful it looks. And like, you know, when M dies, you're like, you're sad and you're freaked out by Raul Silva. Like, you have all these good moments.
Emotion, theme, monomyth.
And you're not really questioning. It's kind of like The Dark Knight Rises, where, at least for me, when I watch The Dark Knight Rises, I'm connect emotionally to what it's trying to do. Like, just purely from like, oh, I'm just experiencing all this. And then when you start to think about it, you're just like, it's like remembering a dream where you're
again,
like,
it's like a Tarkovsky movie. Don't think it, feel it.
kind of.
But again, I made this point earlier in the podcast, but I'll elaborate on it now. This is kind of my issue with The Last Jedi, where The Last Jedi is saying, Luke sucked. The Jedi sucked. The Han Solo way of going it by yourself sucked. And all this sucks. But then halfway through the movie, it's like, but no, he was really cool, actually. And we should all follow in his footsteps. And I'm like, make up your mind. I don't know what you're doing here.
We can discuss that at another time. But
Troy, I think that you're right. I think that Jake's right. You can't both be right, but I'm also right. So let's move on.
But Paul's wrong.
Paul's always wrong, yeah.
Fuck.
So this should be quick because The Dark Knight happens.
Yeah, they do.
From the here on out, it's just The Dark Knight and Home Alone.
Yes. Well, we got to talk about M in the hearing, which is the other like thematic weird
with Mrs. Malfoy.
Oh yeah, the full-on penetration. Yeah.
Yeah. Once again, a woman is presented in the movie as being like an adversarial force and yelling at our main characters.
Okay, come on.
Who is also a woman.
You know who it should have been.
Oh God, I know who you're gonna say.
It should have been Sir Roger Moore. Imagine Roger Moore being the head of the committee, being
like a mummy yelling at another mummy.
Yes, a mummified Roger Moore being
exciting.
Like, how can you justify these expenditures? This is ridiculous. I think you should take another look at your budget.
A 95-year-old man telling you, Judi Dench, like, you are way too old to be doing this. Your Alzheimer's is dangerous.
Taking his oxygen.
Like Dennis Hopper, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Javier Bardem gives strong Frank Booth vibes with the whole mommy stuff.
I want to point out Q, dumbass Q. He is like
dumb twink.
He can't
Q
figure out twink Q. He can't figure out a map of London. Then he's like, oh frightful dearie me, I've been hacked. That guy we just arrested is now loose, and he's running all over London, and he owns the police.
Yeah, just like in the Joker, when you think about it for 5 seconds, you're like, this plan makes no sense.
But it's helped because everyone there is an idiot who is bad at their job.
He was counting on so many like loose variables that could have been completely off. You know?
But I love the train. I love how he knew a train was going to come through that wall and aim right at James Bond.
He knew that somebody would chase him.
When people complain about that in this and in The Dark Knight, it's just like, have you ever read a fucking comic book? That like this is just comic book logic. It's fine.
Don't you know how to have fun?
Learn to have fun, yeah.
I will say my issue with this versus something like The Dark Knight is I think in The Dark Knight, I believe that all those characters are pretty good at their jobs. This is Q being like, oh, I've hacked myself. Oh my God, I hope he doesn't go to that hearing where everyone talks about how M is bad at her job.
The fucking guy that let the Joker have a phone call is not like.
Well, I think you get a lot more leeway in The Dark Knight because they go on and on about the cops are not always good at what they do. And also the Joker is basically supernatural.
Yeah, fair.
Whatever. In this one, I will say a couple more things. M goes on about, you know, we're not fighting countries anymore. Justice is gray, basically.
Yeah.
And also,
but here's the bad guy. He's the very clear bad guy.
But
with
this is the bad guy.
Face.
And this is also how you know this is an art film because they're playing the action while she's quoting Tennyson.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's reading a poem. Again, she reads this poem where it's like, we're the only ones who can keep you safe. We watch The Watchmen, And then the guy they literally just arrested breaks into the courtroom and kills everyone.
It's also the film's thesis as to why James Bond matters.
But he
and what
didn't
does it
do
amount
shit.
to? It's awesome. Fuck you. That's basically the answer.
That's my fucking thing with Sam Mendes. Is like he's just like, oh, this is an art Bond film, and you see him in interviews, and he's wearing his stupid scarf and his beret and whatever.
That's Darren Aronofsky.
That's also Sam Mendes.
As he's smoking out of like a cigarette with a cigarette holder with the sunglasses.
And he's got a monocle, and he's like, this is an art film. And he's like, anyway, onto the Home Alone 2 sequence. It's like, the fuck are you doing?
So Silva breaks in, Bond saves him. Ray Fiennes jumps in front of the bullet and saves them.
Oh, yeah.
They get into a shootout. Bond shoots the fire extinguishers and disappears into the smoke, and Silva doesn't just go into the smoke, he just leaves.
Again, I want to point out that Mallory, the guy who may or may not be the new improved M, like, he gets a moment of heroism where he takes a bullet for M, and he has an arc where he, like, learns respect for everyone. He's not good at his job, but he's given, like, a baseline of competence that, like, no one else in the movie is, like, allowed.
Has he had an arc, or is he just revealing his true nature because he's testing everyone?
That's an arc, yeah. I think what the movie is saying is that men are better than women, and men should be M and not women.
They should be in charge of MI6.
I want to point out they hired a director named Sam Mendes in the year of our Lord 2012. How dare they?
You know, I always thought Sam Mendes was Latino. I always thought he was part of the team. and then I see the interviews for Skyfall, and he's like, "Oi, bloke! Oh my god!"
I see this as an art film, you know.
It's
James
an art film,
Bond's art films. I'm the most Latino bloke you've ever met in your life.
I'm the most fucking. I'm gonna go to Mi Casita and have my fucking burrito.
All right.
I'm gonna order a mojito.
A mojito.
Mojito?
Mojito. Yeah, I don't know. Whenever I think someone is Jewish or Latino and they turn out not to be, I get like legit sad.
You're like, you betrayed me.
Yeah. Like I've been angry at Anne Hathaway ever since I discovered she wasn't Jewish.
So you were really mad at Armageddon time?
Yeah.
You're just like, what the fuck?
But anyways, I fucking love the scene at the tube. So many gags, great tight action. I love when James Bond just goes, open the door.
The door.
Open the door.
Oh, and then you have the old married couple just going like,
he's in a rush. Like,
He's keen to get home.
Is that Michael G. Wilson?
no. I couldn't find Michael G. Wilson. I think he's just like, well, this is very continuity based. So I am still the arrested, corrupt Montenegro police captain.
But yeah, he successfully scurries M away, and then they're on the run together. This is where it gets a little weird, where it's like, okay, we're on the run.
But he's leaving a trail
Yes,
for...
he's like, we have to leave breadcrumbs so
like
that
Hansel
we
and
can
Gretel. Yeah.
trap Silva. And then he says the line, we're going back in time. Someplace we'll have the advantage.
Where are we going?
Back in time. Somewhere we'll have the advantage.
Which is definitely one way of justifying this, where it's like, I need to do a Home Alone in Scotland now.
2 points on that. The reveal of the Aston Martin, I must admit, still is the one nostalgia bait here that does tickle my pickle. I think it's very cool when it's revealed.
Yes, I love the Aston Martin reveal.
When I first saw this in theaters, I was like, yeah, the Aston Martin's back. Wait, I've already seen the Aston Martin. It was in Casino Royale. Big whoop. But then they get inside. And then he opens up the ejector seat.
Yes,
and then I
right.
lost my shit. I completely lost my shit when he threatens to eject M out of the car. And I'm like, oh my God.
It's not very comfortable, is it?
Are you going to complain the whole way?
Oh, go on then, eject me. See if I can.
I'm like, this makes no sense, but fuck yeah.
I want him to do it and for Judi Dench to just die on the pavement.
He was thinking as he fell off the train, he was like, remember that time I had that Aston Martin with the ejection seat? Good run. Good run.
I was gonna say it's weird with the breadcrumbs that it's like, oh, now Hugh not Hugh. Now Q hacking. He's like, I need you to hack. And he's like, no, but I can't.
Yes, because he's bad at his job. Everyone is bad at their job. Is this the part where Tanner is just pounding back a Heineken?
Yes.
Well, he's just in the corner.
Who's pounding who?
Oh, Bill Tanner. The two twinks are together, and
Tanner is pounding Q?
yes.
I wish.
Is this the delay, or did this happen in the movie?
Both.
No, you're hearing it right, Jen.
He's pounding a Heineken while he's pounding Q.
And Q's like, I can't hack
Nice.
while I'm getting pounded by a Heineken drinking twink. And Mallory is like, oh, you boys.
Yeah, he's just like, what the hell do you think you're doing? And they're just like, we're so busted. And he's like, no, that's a really good idea. Use this actually instead. I'm cool.
Wait, oh, you're talking about the hack? Yeah.
Yeah.
Skyfall.
They get to Skyfall. Here's the thing about this movie.
The one thing
that kind of doesn't make sense. So they're just like, well, in order to defeat the new age enemy of technology, they must go back to this old rundown Scottish shack in their tripped out 1960s Aston Martin, because that's what Bond movies are about. And I'm also like, if you really think about it, Bond movies are completely technology forward. They are about technology that doesn't even exist yet. So the idea of Bond being like this antiquated thing where it's like a Western and they're holed up in a Scottish house doesn't make any sort of thematic sense, and it absolutely contributes nothing to the meta commentary on James Bond.
No, again, this screenplay is very stupid and makes no sense, but if you're just enjoying the ride, it
exactly.
works.
That's the thing. Despite this kind of being completely erroneous, it works still.
But again, we're doing the origin story of Bond again. So we have to go to his parents' grave. We have to find out how he died. We have to see where he first nutted the first time he pooped.
He nutted in a cave or something.
He didn't come out for 2 days, and when I came out, he was a man.
The night I told him his parents had died, he hid in here for 2 days. When he did come out, he wasn't a boy anymore.
He was a man. His arm was significantly bigger. It's like that scene in a Family Guy where Quagmire discovers internet porn.
But yes, so we're at Bond's childhood home that M is surprised he has, and he's like, shut up, your husband's dead.
Yeah, he's just like, you knew that I lived in Skyfall. You know my life story. I don't need to explain to the audience. I mean you.
But then we meet
here it
Sean
comes.
Connery
Here comes the big nutter.
as I think Sean Connery should have played Kincade. Wait, what am I hearing? He was clearly supposed to, but they were too chicken shit to ask him, so they got the star of Tom Jones, Scrooge.
You could never tell that in this.
Yeah, no,
movie.
you could possibly never tell because it's still structured like it is like a reveal that Sean Connery is going to show up.
And he says, welcome to Scotland.
Welcome to Scotland.
And he says, you learned every trick you ever knew from me. I was kicking ass before you were born. And I'm like, you were in Tom Jones before he was born.
You're Scrooge.
Yeah, you are not an action star.
Yeah, no, it's such a weird, I remember the first time I watched this, we're in Scotland, it's in the shadows, I hear that voice, I'm like, holy fucking shit, it's gonna be Sean Connery. And then Albert Finney shows up, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Wait,
everyone's losing.
And I was going through my mind, like, "Is Albert Finney in any of these movies?"
No,
I was like, "No."
Is this a reference?
No. Why is this a big reveal?
And the thing is
here?
that it tricked me too. Even though I knew Albert Finney was going to be in this movie, and I'm like, "Oh, Sean Connery's gonna be here." Oh no, wait, Albert Finney never showed up. Oh, it's Albert Finney. And you're just like...
But it's like, they didn't change the storyboards.
No, they didn't. And what's even weirder is that, the explanation is early on we were talking about it being a Sean Connery cameo, but I felt like it would have been too distracting from the end of the movie. I'm like, no, you've already brought back the Aston Martin DB5 when it's there for just fan service. I think at that point you can get away with anything.
Even still, the thing with your thing with the opening shot, Jake, it's like, if you felt this way, then change the fucking shot.
Right.
Well, what's more distracting is to have a guy who is not connected to James Bond suddenly has an Alfred who's his best friend, and we're like, Where's this guy been the whole time?
Who is this guy? Who the fuck is this guy? Who is he?
Well, I gotta say, this Kincade character is very confusing for this reason, but I do really like Kincade.
Oh, yeah, no, Albert Finney's fun. Yeah.
I love how he calls Emma. He's like, nice to meet you, Emma.
Hello, Emma.
Pleased to meet you, Emma.
This is where I found Bond. I told him his parents died, and he gooned in this cave for 3 days.
I like how Bond's like, you kept the House of Atreides nuclear arsenal safe, right, Kincade? And he's like, no, I sold all the guns for money, except your dad's. Here you go.
Yeah, except your father's. Actually, when you died, they sold the house and all of your guns.
All of them.
Do you want to goon with me, James? No, Kincade. No,
Remember what I taught you, James.
Yeah, it's just bizarre that he has an Alfred that's just living in this like abandoned house.
Kincade is like the worst housekeeper.
Yeah, I guess he's not a great butler if he can barely take care of it for himself to live in.
You know, now I want like every big reveal character to just be Kincade in every movie.
Oh, Star Trek Into Darkness?
Yeah.
It's like my name
is Kincade. Like in Rise of Skywalker, it's somehow Kincade came back to life.
And when in Avengers Infinity War, when Vision is like in that tunnel out from the shadows, it's not Captain America, it's Kincade.
Yeah.
They are in Scotland.
My name is Eve Kincade.
The beard like grows from her face, and he's like, son of a bitch, you got me again.
He goes into M's office, and it's Kincade.
No, and then Christoph Waltz.
Blofeld is Kincade.
Christoph Waltz leans in. My name is Kincade. Son of a bitch again. James, I have a daughter. Her name is Kincade.
Madeline Swan is like, she's not Kincade, but the eyes.
She has Kincaid's eyes. I know.
She has Kincaid's eyes.
Oh, wait, what are we talking about? Wait.
Yeah, that movie's not real, but...
Okay, so they do a Home Alone.
Yes, they decide they're going to Home Alone the bad guy.
This has gotten a lot of complaints in the past. Oh, it's just Home Alone. I think it's fun.
It's fun. Home Aloneing is fun.
Home Alone does not have a fucking, like, patent on booby traps.
Also, Home Alone's booby traps are not explosions.
Yeah, he wasn't trying to murder Joe Pesci.
He was in the later ones.
No, he was, yeah. He threw a fucking brick at his face.
It's slightly more grounded in this, and I will say, I think me and Jake were discussing this as well. Once again, beautifully executed, because you get that kind of dusk light, and then the magic catches on fire.
Scotland, this is the best Scotland has ever looked on film.
You know what's fucking crazy? So it's like the first 3/4 of like the Skyfall stuff is done on location. And then after the house lights on fire and it blows up, everything else is on a stage.
Yeah, because they did this effect, which they more or less repeated in 1917, where it's one massive lighting source, and which is replaced in CG.
Which is, I confirmed it watching the behind the scenes, because they showed like after the house blows up and it's supposed to be the exterior and it's on fire, it's exactly the same as in 1917.
Well, and also they blow up the fucking Aston Martin.
Yeah,
that bastard!
After it does some cool things.
Tragic.
Which is it's heartbreaking, even though it comes back later on, and it's still kind of this thing where it's like thematically muddled of it being like the peasant needs to die, and then the very next scene is like everything's back to the past.
Well, here's what also doesn't make sense. We've never seen him drive this car before besides Casino Royale, and even then it wasn't tripped out with gadgets, so he doesn't really have a personal connection to his car. So when it blows up and then he's mad, you're just like, wait, what? And then also, Bond has never given a shit about any of his cars. Like,
no,
literally...
He ruins them all the time.
Yeah. This is one of his character traits, is that he does not give a shit about his gadgets because they're always destroyed. However, because we are so emotionally attached to the fucking car, and when Bond looks out and then the music changes and stuff, it works within the context of the scene.
Yes, it's shameless fan service, and we all smiled and clapped. Yes.
Yes, classic 2010s nostalgia bait.
Exactly.
Like, the characters wouldn't give a fuck about this, but you would, so they are.
I think the weird whiplash is compounded by how he's like mad about the car, but then like 5 minutes later he's like, I always hated this house. I'm glad it's getting blown up.
I always hated this place.
And it's like, well, why did we even have to come back to this damn
that's
place?
what I was always thinking. It's just
I don't know why the climax takes place here. I don't know why the movie's called Skyfall.
Well, the sky falls. I get the metaphor, and it sounds cool. But I don't get why why would his parents be like, all right, we'll raise our little boy in a house called Skyfall with Kincade.
Yeah. It makes so much not sense that in Mexico, the title of the movie is Operation Skyfall.
I heard about Operation Kid Brother.
Yeah, they're like, it's. Let's just pretend that Skyfall is the name of this mission,
Guys, what if we made Neil Connery Kincade?
Stop with your insert.
Okay, that would make less sense.
All right, can we point out Javier Bardem likes to boombox? He's a boombox villain. He's always like pumping appropriate tunes in whenever he's entering.
Oh yeah, that's I didn't remember that he came in fucking Apocalypse Now style with the
Well, then he also plays
music.
like the French song when he shoots Severin.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, that was weird. Okay, but I was gonna say, acceptable, but may have started a troubling trend with the Aston Martin.
Sure.
But yes, beautifully shot sequence. This may have also kicked off a slightly troubling trend because it's dusk light. You can see everything. You can tell what's going on, but it is fairly dark. And this paved the way for many films and television series to come in which you could see absolutely nothing.
Yeah, where it just looks like very dark blue.
You mean like
very,
thematically
very
dark, or like you found it hard to see?
Well, that wasn't a question until after Skyfall. Let's just say that, yeah.
People tried to imitate it and failing miserably.
They're not Roger Deakins.
Yeah, but no, again, I think this action scene looks beautiful. It's very entertaining.
Yes.
It's a banger. Has great ideas. I love the thing with the ice.
We get the first F word in a James Bond movie.
Oh yeah, that is true.
I fucked it up.
Yeah.
I fucked this up, didn't I?
Which is it's an appropriate first time to use the F word as a character going, I fucked up then. Yeah, we're not good characters.
No,
we're not good at our jobs.
Freaking M has a gun in her hand for 1 minute, and she's like, I guess I'll try to shoot someone, is immediately fatally wounded. Like,
yes.
Right off the bat. And it's like, our whole reason we were doing this was to keep you safe, you dummy.
It wasn't about that. It was about M and Bond healing their relationship.
It was about the friends that we made along the way.
They healed their relationship, but she did not survive.
Yeah, no, she died.
Yeah. They healed the relationship that they never had to begin
exactly.
with. But, okay, so
no, they kind of had it with these movies.
And he throws a knife in Javier's back because it's the old ways.
We're at the church. What do we think of the whole Javier Bardem like tango with the gun to both their heads? Because that's a moment where...
No, it's okay. He's a psychopath.
No, but that's the moment where I'm like, imagine, if you will, Pierce Brosnan.
No, enough about Pierce Brosnan.
Whatever. It's not Pierce Brosnan. It's Javier Bardem.
Pierce is my boy. I love Mamma Mia too. I love him as James Bond. Javier Bardem is a much better actor. I'll just say.
True.
Javier is very good because like the way that the character is written is not necessarily going to work so great, but he really sells it.
I do also want to point out that Kincade like walks in on this and then he's like, oh, and then he walks out of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So James Bond, he does that cool thing in the ice where he's like fighting across the ice, which looks pretty cool. And then, yes, as Paul said, he toples Raul Silva.
Yeah. That's a verb now.
He converted him to Judaism. James Bond comes in and cuts his foreskin.
And then, yeah, I mean, I didn't think about this until, this is one of the few things where, like, in the context of the franchise, I'm now like, wait a minute, was this important? Were people mad that he cries? He's crying.
No, that's fine.
James Bond cries all the time.
He never cries. What are you talking about?
He was crying when Vesper
he
died.
cried in Her Majesty's Secret Service.
No, he didn't. He was stoic, very specifically. He did not cry when Vesper died. He was angry.
He was underwater when Vesper died. Tears were coming out of his eyes.
Is he actually like sobbing here, or does he just get like a little
tears
teary-eyed?
running down his face? The only time, I think.
No, that's a Mandela.
Come on.
What about when VJ died?
No, that was at night. You couldn't see.
Yeah, you couldn't see it.
What about when Kincade showed up?
What about when he smelled an apple pie that smelled real good and he floated up like a cartoon character weeping?
Okay,
Anyway.
I am looking at the scene right now. He does not shed tears. He just does the On Her Majesty Secret Service head down.
There's a little bit of a
He's
tear.
like sobbing. He's like heaving.
No,
He's not heaving.
hell?
He's like
Paul.
he's teary-eyed, but he's not heaving.
This is your he did full penetration moment.
Honestly, yeah. Paul's
right.
doubling down on the full penetration. I'm giving you that he does cry a little bit, but he's not like he's not like he's not like Tobey Maguire.
Okay. I'm watching the scene right now. His lip goes like this.
Okay, so Jan is like winking at us?
And that's it.
Yes. Well, okay, but
He quivers.
He's never done that before.
I'll give it to you.
I think for this scene, in order
Sure.
to get all the James Bonds in here, they should have cast Daniel Craig as James Bond. So he could
As
cry
M?
for the scene and like really go.
But
full
I mean,
force.
I guess what they're trying to do here is, you know, combined with the whole like convoluted backstory of James Bond being an orphan and stuff, and his parents died, and he found a martyr figure
Yes.
on M.
I think that's the implication.
And yeah, she's dying, so mommy died, so I'm very sad. But at the same time, it's like the movie just showed us that making M your mommy will turn you into Raul Silva. So it's odd.
And again,
No.
Jake, back me up on this. Is this the first James Bond movie? Well, all right, I can think of Casino Royale 1967 maybe being the exception, where James Bond fails. Like, he does not succeed at what he was trying to do the whole movie, which was protect M. She died.
Well, and in Casino Royale 2006, he
No, he
failed at
got
that
the
one,
money
too.
back.
He lost the money.
No, they got it back. Vesper.
No, they didn't.
What? Mr. Green. He shot Mr. Green in the kneecaps. He's getting that
It's
money
Mr.
back.
White, and no, he doesn't get the money back. He just goes like, "Who the fuck are you?"
Yeah, whatever. He did it. He won.
it's
He got it.
ambiguous, whatever. Okay.
The sheep is dead.
Troy just likes that he's in a suit and the music plays.
Exactly. It's a win.
I think Daniel Craig, this isn't the first time he's failed the mission, but he does fail the mission. But he does get some closure with his relationship to M. Because
Why?
They
Because
finally
he gets the bulldog.
Yeah, it's from Olivia Mansfield. Her real name.
he patches things up with M, and he finally figures out what his purpose is in life. His purpose is to be the English bulldog or something.
I thought she was the bulldog. Okay.
No, he's the bulldog because he's like the loyal lapdog that even though that like
Wait,
M
what?
sends him off to die and like constantly fucks him over, he's always going to defend the interests of Britain and his mum, M.
I thought Kincade was the bulldog.
Kincade is the Scottish bulldog.
I love when M is dying and it's like Bond and Kincade.
And Kincade just takes off his hat and covers his heart.
His hat. And that is like pretty much like a Big Lebowski moment of like, the fuck is with this guy? Who is he?
It's Kincade.
That's the last thing Albert Finney ever did on film was, oh, poor M.
Wait, was he not in a movie after this?
Yeah, this was his last movie.
What?
Really?
Yeah. So then we get, again, the ending that made me clap and come and jizz and all the stuff in the theater. But now I watch it and I'm like,
What?
Yay.
Yeah, Moneypenny
What?
is like, you're right. I don't belong out in the field. I belong behind
Now
the
I'm
desk.
a secretary.
Yeah, I'm a secretary.
Field work's not for everyone.
And then she takes off her coat and she's wearing a dress that is reminiscent of Lois Maxwell's dress in Goldfinger.
Okay, if you say so.
You know, we've never formally been introduced.
Oh, well, my name's Eve Moneypenny.
I look forward to our time together, Miss Moneypenny.
I don't know what it is trying to do here. Like, I guess it worked in me when I was a child, you know, but now as an adult, I'm watching it and I'm like, we're supposed to, you know, get excited about the fact that, like, the secretary is back and
She's wearing a much darker blue dress.
I thought Naomi Harris's dress was like green.
Yeah, it's like a dark
you
greenish
guys
blue.
have just been debating about the dress and not hearing.
No,
word
I
of it.
hear you,
Okay.
Jan. Well, Jan, like, that's the thing. Whenever people talk about watching Skyfall, okay, full disclosure, I didn't see this until 8 years after the fact. So whenever people talked about
Yes,
Skyfall, they were
last
like,
year.
yes, last year. And they were like, fuck yeah, Skyfall's a fun time. James Bond is back. And that's kind of what this ending is doing. It's like, we got Moneypenny. M has a dick again. Everything's back in the old office. We're ready for new adventures. Here comes the gun barrel.
Are you ready to get back to work? With pleasure, M. With pleasure.
But he failed. He was not fit for duty. He should not have gone on duty. M is dead. She's dead. His house is blown up. His car is blown up. This man is a loser. So what are you doing bringing him back into the old office? Like, oh yeah.
If Sam Mendes' whole thing was about deconstructing James Bond and doing a deconstructionist character study and stuff, like, then what the fuck is this ending saying, like, old ways are best? We're back to Dr. No, you know? I don't get it.
Right.
Well, I was going to say, I don't remember, but I think sometime around when we embarked on this journey months ago, I posed the question, is James Bond the most self-loathing movie franchise?
No.
Yes.
Now it is.
This is the first one that, like, loves itself, I guess.
Well.
Or no, but it also hates just what came before it. Because now it's like, we're getting rid of the quantum shit. We're going
it's
back
always
to
been, like, self-loathing to a degree. It's been, at times, it's like, yeah, we're awesome, but also we are really embarrassed of ourselves because we're a stupid movie franchise, but also we're awesome because we make a bunch of money and it's good, and
it's just like this podcast.
It brings joy to so many people.
Yes, just like us.
Just like us. We have dozens of
Actually,
listeners.
no, that part is definitely not us. But yeah, we get the gun barrel at the end, and the gun barrel looks like shit. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it looks awful.
It's like the graphic is wrong and it looks cheap. And then there's this weird decision. Oh yeah, Bond is like walking and he's just holding the gun and you could just see it.
He looks drunk.
And he looks like drunk. And then they do this weird thing that when he shoots, he goes into a still and it's awkward. And he like his arm is like up like he's a marionette. So it's just like this really awkward pose. And he like
but that's thematically relevant. It's to say like how he's a puppet for the state.
And then it cuts to James Bond, 50 years. We did it. We made 50 years of James Bond movies. M is dead. He's a failure. He is old. But we did it, 50 years.
This is the miracle of Skyfall because...
Miracle?
Yes. He fails his mission. Yes, M is dead. His car is blown up.
Sam Mendes or James Bond?
Sam Mendes succeeded in tricking people into thinking this has a happy ending, I guess.
Yes. No, and I'm saying that that's an accomplishment, Troy.
Kind of like Casino Royale.
Yeah, no, it is kind of like Casino Royale.
Well, Casino Royale, you're a little bit more melancholy at the end. This one is just like you complete, like,
right.
You're sad about M dying, but you're like excited for the future and you're like pumped up.
When I saw this in the movie theater the first time, I was literally like pumping my fists in the air. And then the gun barrel happened and I was like, what the fuck? Like,
I was just like, ew, that gun barrel is looking rough. Like, I don't like it when they get rid of the classic design Maurice Binder gun barrel because like it has a specific look.
Yeah.
So when you put it in like a generic gun barrel, it looks like a YouTuber made it.
I didn't like it when they got rid of M's cushiony door, but you know, this is like a monkey's paw kind of thing.
Again, I didn't see Skyfall in theaters, but I'm imagining the elation you felt at realizing Ray Fiennes and Bernard Lee have the same hairline and that he can sit in the same desk as him. But then they cut to the gun barrel and it's off color and you're like, ah! It must have torn you apart.
Yeah, that's the only bad thing
I can tell Paul did not give a fuck
saw
about
it and I
this.
was like, oh, like it's at the end. Is that what happens in these movies? Oh.
But yeah, no, the blood comes on way too quick.
Oh
and
yeah,
then
the
it just
blood.
has
Well, the whole thing is like super fast paced. It's like the similar problems with Quantum of Solace.
And then it just says 50 years of James Bond, and I'm like, okay, movie's over.
I mean, in 2012, it was nice to see the 50 years logo, but then 10 years later, you're kind of like...
Yeah, it felt like one of those, when they turned the Disneyland castle into a birthday cake, because it's like the 25th anniversary or something.
Yeah.
So, Skyfall.
We did it.
We did it.
The only other James Bond movie besides maybe Goldfinger to get in 1001 movies to see before you die.
And it made up more $1 billion.
A sky billion dollars.
A sky $1 billion.
And in a certain way, this is kind of like the closest thing to like a Goldfinger that happened post Goldfinger in the Bond series, because the movies after this are trying to be Skyfall
and failing.
Yes.
And it also revived Bond mania for a while.
Like
there.
people really got back into Bond once James Bond was more about like sweeping adventure and epic vistas and not shaking the camera so much that you want to throw up.
Okay, final thoughts. Yeah, you could start, Troy. I mean, Jan.
My non-union Mexican equivalent.
So yeah, I guess me and Paul should start so that we can return to the status quo and you and Troy can end it.
After I kill you. Okay.
Yeah, there has to be a gunshot after each of their stories.
No, Paul is going to kill you because you betrayed Paul to the Chinese.
Yeah, sorry, I love the Chinese. But anyways, the hair, they finally figured it out. 10 out of 10, baby. This is the best Craig has looked in any of these movies. The fits are amazing. The hair is amazing. In the last one, they were trying to cover the receding hairline so he looked like Coconut Head, like Jake said. Now they've embraced the middle-agedness. They've embraced the receding hairline. He looks fucking fan-fucking-tastic. That stubble, oof. So hot.
So crisp.
He looks so hot in that movie.
Yes.
So crisp. And Roger is shooting him like, there was a very famous photographer that once said, there are no ugly people. They are just poorly photographed. And I feel like Daniel Craig is the prime example of this.
Oh no!
The movie, this is, yes, like we've said, it's one of those movies that on paper is like, okay, so the themes are very modeled. It's going back and forth between like, we love the past, we hate the past, we love previous James Bonds, but we're also fixing them. So in that sense, it doesn't work. But at the same time, just in terms of pure enjoyment, it's a good fucking script, I think. Like, it's very tight. It's very well paced. It's ripping off The Dark Knight. It's got a good villain. I love that the story is about M and all that Oedipus bullshit, you know? I like all that stuff. And yeah, obviously this movie would not be what it is without the direction of Sam Mendes and the Dick's cinematography. Is that the word? Yeah, I think. Okay. So they just the crafts.
I love how you struggled with cinematography and not dicks.
So the dicks, like, this movie looks gorgeous. Every action scene is super exciting. It's super entertaining. Like, the only Bond movies that I can watch pretty much any day, like Bond movies, even though I love them, like, I have to be in the right mood, you know, for like, if I'm gonna pop in Man with the Golden Gun or whatever. This one is just a fucking breeze. I love watching it. So much craftsmanship behind it. And like I said, I think I enjoyed it for the exact opposite reasons for why Sam Mendes thinks it's good. Like, as a character study and as a deconstruction and everything, doesn't really work at all. It's one of those movies that, like, once you start thinking about it, kind of falls apart. But like, as you said, Jake, just in terms of pure enjoyment and just having a blast, this is up there with one of the best ones. Sam Mendes, you've made Bristol and the Latino community very proud. I am gonna give this movie a 9 out of 10.
Whoa. Whoa. Okay, now I've shot you.
Oh yeah, now I'm Jake, now shoot me.
I threw a knife at you.
Oh right. Knife in the back. Wait, no, I get the knife in the back, right? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
you get the knife in the back.
Yeah, because you're Australian. So now cue the Mario dying scene. Oh!
Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Okay, Paul, you're bleeding out. You're up.
Oh yes, I'm currently bleeding out. Daniel Craig's hair, they managed to nicely split the difference between gelled 2000s and whatever was going on in Quantum. He looks good. He's never going to be Pierce, though. I mean, it's just no way, but I'll still give it like a 9 out of 10. He's looking good.
Yeah, it's looking good, man. Oh, sorry, I'm dead. I'm sorry.
You died instantly.
Okay, this film is a smashing success of style. And that is its primary influence. I think when you go back, they were trying to do Dark Knight, and you see a lot of that, but really, stylistically, this has very little in common with Nolan. What I see here with the Deakins and the Mendes, what I see here is they're paving a way for not a style that predominated in the 2010s, but certainly was a strain of these kind of clean, kind of methodical blockbusters. The Denis Villeneuves and the Matt Reeveses of the world, this, I think, laid the groundwork for them, and you see that all over this.
Mm-hmm.
Roger Deakins is Lisan al-Gaib.
Yes, we salute the Messiah.
Honor the fighters.
Yes.
Long
live the fighters. Yes.
I don't listen to hip hop.
But yes, underneath, even though they take some swings, for the most part, I think you see a lot of the challenges that have plagued most of these movies' screenplays, trying to weave different sequences together and different threads. The M thing is interesting. The romance is barely there and completely obligatory, even what is there, right?
What romance?
Exactly.
Him and Silva.
Him and Kincade.
Him and Moneypenny.
Right.
Kincade and everyone. Kincade and the audience.
Kincade in Scotland.
We all fell in love with Kincade.
True MVP.
But yes, funnily enough, without the Oscar sheen over it, the kind of downshift in energy made me feel like, weirdly enough, the movie that this is most in common with is the John Glenn era. Still a banger, and obviously incredibly influential in terms of selling people on this franchise all over again. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Very good.
Troy, before you give your review, Jake, the thumbnail for this should totally be the poster, but everyone's face is Kincade.
Yes.
Are there multiple people on the poster?
Well, we should be Kincade.
We'll just be Kincade.
Everyone's Kincade. Anyway, Troy. Oh, wait, Paul's dead.
And I'm dead.
Paul died. But now I'm walking back in the office. I don't have a hat to put on the rack, which makes you wonder why it's even there. Why didn't he have a hat anyway?
It's true. How'd they fuck that up? Okay.
Yeah, they fucked that up. He's supposed to have a hat.
And the hat rack is not even on the right side of the broom. It should be on the other side so you could throw it.
Why did they do this to
Unless
me?
you do the gag where the hat rack is actually next to the door and he's about to throw it and then he just puts it down.
Those are your two options. They did neither. Failure. 0 out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm dead.
All right, so the hair, I'll be honest, platonically, I still feel it's a little Richie Rich in this movie. It feels a little bit like...
Oh, yeah, you're the anti-blonde.
Yeah, it's a little short and yellow. So I'm not super crazy about that, but this is the coolest Daniel Craig has looked as Bond so far. He looks amazing, and so I gotta honor that. I'm gonna give the hair 7 out of 10 just for that shot where he's standing still and the boat is going into the Hong Kong casino. After my review, I, for once in my life, do agree with Paul quite a bit, but I'll reword it so it sounds like I'm saying something different. James Bond always is looking at trends other blockbusters are doing. In Quantum of Solace, they went all in on Bourne, and no one liked it. And so they thought, hey, we also took from Nolan, let's just do The Dark Knight. And they basically do The Dark Knight, and it predictably works pretty well. It's zippy. It flows. I don't know if you really would hold The Dark Knight responsible for this in a sense, but I think it did. And I think Skyfall and Avengers, when they both ripped off The Dark Knight, solidified that. It's the return of the wide open blockbuster. You can clearly see everything. Everything is well presented. Characters interact with each other more. And there's like an attempt at camaraderie that you see in a lot of movies of the time. And that works very well. I will say it does feel like they're grafting it onto a take of James Bond where it didn't really want those things, but I like those things. So it's good. However, this takes me to my other point, which is, as I said at the beginning, and as Paul said, this movie is style over substance. Sam Mendes is directing such a slick film. Deakins is shooting it so beautifully. Everyone's coming back. There's fan service. The action zips. But the story is kind of rotten. It's kind of...
Style is substance, my friend. Get with it. That's what the kids are saying.
But the story of this movie is of a man who is broken and he can't do his job anymore. And he's surrounded by his boss and all the women of his life who are all incompetent at what they do. So all the men he meets get him back in the field, but he sucks. And all the men in his life suck. And they're being chased by a guy who sucked at his job. And all the women get killed or punished, while the man who does not succeed just gets to feel good about himself and gets to just walk into the office on Monday like it's all normal? What? That's awful. It's not heroic. It's not inspirational. This is a terrible story.
It works emotionally.
The emotions are bad.
Nostalgia bait.
The emotions are bad.
Things you know.
But I can think I can think, and I'm feeling bad about all the blood. I feel bad whenever James Bond is like, I'll feel better when you're not in the field. And I'm like, why are you in the field? You got a 14 on that test, and everyone's dead. So it's very frustrating. In my heart of hearts, I feel this is the definition of a 7 out of 10, because those are movies that usually I enjoy the style of, but I'm like, hey, wait a minute. This story sucks. But, and I hate myself for saying this, Sam Mendes, you're one of the best directors working today, and you captured my heart with your zippy. This movie was 2.5 hours, flew by. Like in Quantum of Solace, I was constantly checking the time, and I'm like, when? But it is a thrill ride. It's shallow. It's possibly actively bad. Thank God he made a follow-up where the themes actually matched the craft of the film.
No.
And we'll get to that next week.
I love that you're not apologizing for that, but you did apologize for, like, I hate saying this, but Sam Mendes is a good director.
I hate to say it, but Sam Mendes, top of his game. You did it, bro. Once again, you took the skills of directing a crappy Shakespeare play and making it look good because you put a gel on a light. You did it with this script. 8 out of 10. Yeah, this might even end up in my top 10. I'm not happy about it, though, but there's a reason everyone likes. Oh, and the best song, like, hands down the best.
You reluctantly loved it.
I reluctantly love Skyfall.
Oh, okay.
Whoa, Jake, you're M?
I'm M. You know, I've just been drinking nonstop, and I'm slurring my words. You know, like good old Bernard Lee. I mean, Jake used to do.
That's just Jake.
Yeah.
Yes. James Bond's hair. Yes, this is the best it's ever looked. I think they finally figured out what to do with his hair. He has a good silhouette with that tuft of hair because he has a weird head and a weird face, and that hair just is like a little triangle that sticks out, but it's like not like dirty 90s dude bro hair like in 2006, which I liked it, but you know, if you want to make him more James Bondy, kind of clean it up. And they did. It looks good. 10 out of 10. The movie. This is a very strange movie. And watching it again is very strange because I've seen this movie a bunch of times before, but like even more so this it's just like there's so many things that should not work. Some things are just like ideas that were not fully thought through, which you guys have brought up. Troy brought up some things that I'm like, well, I don't think it's intentionally like that, but yeah, no, they accidentally did that. Some of the choices are weird, and the conclusions it makes about the franchise do not make sense or are really dumb. You really start to think about it, nothing like 100% goes together in a logical way. And like I've said before,
it's good.
The directing is so good.
Yes.
I don't even care as I'm watching it because
it's a magic trick. It fooled you.
Sam Mendes is a theater director where, you know, part of the theater is just buying into like this crappy cardboard set is like Hamlet's castle in Denmark or whatever the fuck. And it's like that same kind of logic here where it's just like, okay, just imagine like this is what you're supposed to feel in this scene. If the illusion is broken or if like the movie didn't work, you would be thinking about this as the movie is happening, but as the movie is happening, you are so swept up in the emotions and the adventure, in the characters and the characters' relationships, and from one action set piece to the other. And the cinematography is just so fucking gorgeous, this movie. Even though it doesn't totally succeed on like articulating its themes, it is like a beautiful piece of candy that is delicious and well crafted, and you just enjoy the experience of just having. And it's probably the most impressive thing that Skyfall does, and kind of shows the talents of Sam Mendes, you know, like in doing this.
The Ferrero Rocher of Bond movies. Still crappy candy that's bad for you, but it's in very nice packaging and it's delicious.
It might be bad for you, but it's so well crafted, and the journey of eating it.
And it's very expensive.
Yeah, it's very expensive. And here's the thing. It is tied as my favorite Bond movie. It is such a fun Bond movie, even though it has some questionable ideas about the Bond series as a whole, and some of the things don't make any sense, and there's some things I kind of hate the idea of, but I'm still sucked into the action, and I still give a shit about what's happening, which is incredible. You know, like after all this time of watching when I was a kid, I was already blown away by it. And then I watched it like all these times over the years, and then watching it again, trying to pick apart like what is with this movie. And I'm putting together in my head, I'm like, none of this adds up, but it works somehow. This defies logic. And yes, this is not only one of my favorite Bond movies, it is one of my favorite movies in general. I fucking love this movie. It is a 5 out of 5 for me. You could only get away with this once, as we will later learn. It really deserves all the praise it gets. It is a fun time. Have a good time with the ride. Don't worry if most of the characters are just made out of cardboard. It's fine.
Think it, don't feel
Exactly.
it. Well, Jake, I must say, I'm really happy that you killed me and I'm dead now. One, because I can join my wife in the afterlife.
Yes.
And the other reason is because that means I don't have to bear the fucking turd that is incoming.
Well, Jen,
You're in
don't
here
worry.
with me. You're in here with me.
Jen, it's okay. No one's ever really gone. Because you're coming back next week because we're talking about Spectre.
Spectre, the
No.
best one, the
No.
best one, the best one.
I don't want
Troy, you're wrong. Fuck you for liking this movie. Anyway, see you next time. I'm Jake.
I'm Jen and I'm dead, but I still have to watch this fucking turd. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. We're all good.
The author of all your pain. And we're done.